Ready? Testing. Good afternoon, everybody. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge the land we're meeting on as a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate online. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask you mute your devices until you're called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During the time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time, and at all other times, your video will be disabled and you'll be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with a written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. People attending in person today who wish to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, your address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons, and public bodies, as defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the committee. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Concerning the procedure this afternoon, I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. When an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired, and when the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair if they wish to speak to the committee. Each speaker, including the applicant and agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are getting towards your 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The agent or applicant will proceed first. They'll make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee, again, may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, I call on speakers in the gallery first and then those online. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will have an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. All right, staff and members, are there any declarations of interest for our afternoon time slot? All right, I see none. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, I believe we don't have any administrative stuff to tend to this afternoon.
We do not. We just have one deferral.
Wonderful request, thank you. And which item is that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's number 18. The address is 32 Young.
All right, so let's start with the deferral and then we will proceed to go in the order for our afternoon session. So item number 18 is 32 Yonge Boulevard. The purpose of the application is to construct a new third-story deck. Requires variances for third-story platform height, platform encroachment into a rear yard setback, and platform encroachment into a side yard setback. On file, material from the applicant, letter from community planning, and objection letter from number 22, 23, 27, 31, 33, 30, and 35 McNairn Avenue. And that's what I see on file. So let's get our agent or applicant online.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Jonathan Binskowski, 301 Keewatin Avenue.
Welcome, Mr. Benkowski. You are requesting a deferral of this matter?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and the reason for your deferral?
Well,
request?
there's a couple.
Sure.
I was under the impression that the deck was rebuilt the same size it previously that was previously there, and I indicated that to planning. As we talked about some concerns they had, my response was, well, it was there previously. I've now been told that it was actually made larger. So in full transparency, I'd like to make planning aware of that because they did have some concerns. And I also did read the neighbors' material, and I'd like to speak to them also about a reduction in size.
All right.
This is also an extremely unique lot. So although the variances look of great magnitude, this is a complete triangle lot. So I would like to also speak with the neighbor to the rear.
Understood. And it is my understanding that this third floor balcony is it is accessible to more than one tenant or person in the building. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. It's only for one tenant.
It is for one tenant. Okay,
That's
we'll
not
get to
correct.
that
Yes,
when the matter comes back then.
Yes.
But I at this time there are some other speakers I would like to hear from. Is anybody in the gallery here to speak to item number 18, 32 Yonge Boulevard? Please come on down and state your name and address for us. Oh, you're right there. Hit the button on the. There you go.
All right, hello.
Hi.
Jared Newsonoff, Violetta Newsonoff, Seth Newsonoff from 33 McNairn Boulevard. Sorry,
All
McNairn
right.
Avenue, not
Avenue.
yeah,
that's correct.
we're the rear, we share the same rear property line.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to ask you. So the applicant is here today. They're requesting a deferral because I think through some of the opposition, they've determined that the deck was rebuilt in a different way as before, and there's also some matters to work out with planning. But I do want to provide you an opportunity to specifically speak to the deferral request.
I would not like to have a deferral. I'd like to
Okay.
continue today. This is for a few reasons. One is there's been 3 orders to comply on this deck that was built in August 2024. We've never spoken to the neighbors about this issue. We have no way to contact them. The matter would have been known clearly to the owner and to the people that the deck was larger than what would have potentially previously existed. And it's been built in a maximally invasive way that's impacted 5 different neighbors' backyards.
Yeah, understood. There's quite a bit of adjacency. I think the adjacency is to 4, 5, 6 different properties. This one.
Yes.
And just a point of reference, you stated on the record you're number 33. So your rear property line directly abuts their property line.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, very well. All right, members, do we have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is anybody else here in the gallery to speak to this item? Okay, staff, we have some people
Both
online.
neighbors, which were supposed to be online, they're not present.
Okay, so we don't have any else present. I'm now going to take it back to our agent, Mr. Benkowski, and provide him an opportunity to respond to the comments that were raised by one of the immediate neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In response, I would say the reason for the deferral is to ultimately improve the proposal. There was 100% a deck there in the past. I've really just been told that it was enlarged from what was there before. I was previously under the impression that it was just rebuilt. And again, in fairness to community planning, I also relayed that message to them. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to have the correct information also. As a professional planner, I did not mean to mislead them. I don't want to convey that to them. So the idea is to improve the proposal from what is there today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Benkowski. I did hear from the neighbor that they did not, they hadn't spoken with you yet, and they did not have any contact information. Now, if a deferral were granted, deferral request were granted, might that provide an opportunity for you to speak directly with the neighbor prior to the hearing to see if we can resolve any of the matters before we come back?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, 100%.
Okay, thank you. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Benkowski? Okay, none. All right, I'm going to take this matter into committee now.
You, Mr.
Yes, Ms. Klein, please.
Looking at what's before us today, I don't see that there's a problem deferring this application to give the opportunity for the applicant to comply and to get the application in line with what was there before. So I am not opposed to a deferral.
Okay. Perhaps a friendly amendment that they also take the use the deferral as an opportunity to perhaps engage with the neighbors to see if
Absolutely.
they can work through some of the concerns that are raised,
I'm a-
given the adjacency, the number of adjacencies that they have on the rear property line.
Yeah, I'm agreeable to that amendment.
Okay, thank you for that. That said, I will, since I made an amendment, I will second your motion.
Thank you.
All in favor of that motion for deferral? Okay, that's unanimous. The deferral request is approved. Okay, so starting with item number 13, 136 Cheltenham Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new two-story detached dwelling with a covered front porch and rear deck. This application was previously deferred on April 30th, 2026. Variances include east side yard setback for a rear deck, side main wall height, front and rear main wall height, east side yard setback for the building, west side yard setback for the building, encroachment of an architectural feature, and east projection and building length. On file, material from the applicant, we have a letter of support from 136. Nope, we have a letter of support, just verify the address here. I got it wrong. But we do have one letter of support on file. I think 138, I stand corrected, 138 Cheltenham Avenue for Mr. Craig Hepburn, one of the immediate neighbors. We have our agent with us.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners. My address is 53 Bentworth Avenue, Toronto.
All right. Miss Evangelista, we're going to get the clock up for you for a brief
Okay.
presentation whenever you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So just to give you a little history on this particular application. This application was before the committee at the beginning of the year, and the neighbors at 136 and 138 had concerns. I was brought in after because it was refused in January. I was brought in and started working with the owners. And I met with the neighbors, both at 136 and 138. We've come up with, some changes to the application that both neighbors on both sides are amenable to. And as you see, Mr. Hepburn at 138 did send in a letter of support. 136, the Overvelds, they didn't have an opportunity, but they are in support of the application as it is currently in front of you. They had concerns with the side yard setback on the east side. So because at that point in time, it was at 0.61 and we have increased it to point. And even though it was just for the garage, they had concerns with it. So we have removed that variance. And now we're at a 1.21. And the side yard setbacks that we are proposing for 136 Cheltenham is consistent with other homes in the neighborhood. It doesn't differ. It's pretty much, status quo. The setbacks are about 1.2 in the neighborhood. They also had concerns with the deck, which we lowered. And then we subsequently lowered again. What we did was we added a couple of steps so that when they come out of that kitchen area at the back, they step down and it is much lower. So I did meet with the neighbors. They're all on side. And the variances that we have, I did submit a submission so that you could see what we're asking for. And the reason for that refusal initially was because the east side yard setback of 0.61, the height of the deck, and the concerns of the neighbors. The neighbors are okay with the main wall height of 8.15. We do not have an overall height. Now, and what we also did was they asked if we could bring the house forward a little bit so that we're more in line with 136 and 138. And because of this, we do have variances 6, which is the proposed front architectural feature where it encroaches the front yard setback. So in closing, I would just like to say that the application that you now have in front of you has been perfected. It is more in line and characteristic with the neighborhood. The neighbors do now support this as it is in front of you, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Evangelista. Just a point of clarification. I've heard a few times you refer to, I believe what you meant to refer to is the neighbor at 134. Is that correct? Because you cited the neighbor at 136 and
yeah,
138.
We're
Yes.
136.
Okay, so
Yes, you're right. You're correct. My apologies. 134 and 138.
okay, so 134
misspoke.
is still part of the is part of the discussion. It's just
Absolutely.
okay,
Yes.
misspoke there.
Yeah.
Okay,
134, 134, and 138.
all
yes.
right. Okay, thank you for that. Members,
No, thank you for bringing that up to my
no
attention.
problem. I want to avoid any miscommunication. If we
Absolutely,
can
I
just get-
appreciate it.
especially since it's on the record.
Yeah.
Mr. Mazziari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. I understand that the application was refused on January 8th, but also
Correct.
it's been deferred on April 30th. Reason for that was not enough time for notice, or can you clarify that, please?
Yes. The reason for the deferral in April, there was a miscommunication between myself and the owner, and the sign didn't get posted
Oh,
in the time that it was supposed to be posted.
so this application is exact same as April 30th application. It's just
Well, after the fact, full transparency through you, Mr. Chair, Member Mazzayari. There was, after the hearing, we noticed there was a miscommunication, and the notice did not have the length. It did not include the length of the building.
We were missing a variance.
We were missing a variance.
oh, okay. So
Yeah.
added a variance.
So there's always a way things work out.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Evangelista. I'm going to take this into committee now. Yes, Ms. Margieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I think it's applicant has come a long way from January 8th application. I read both variances. I think there are really good revisions since then, and I'm happy that the applicant worked with the neighbors. So to me, it's a supportable application. I don't have any concern, and I can forward a motion if my colleagues don't have any comment.
Sure,
So
please.
I forward a motion to approve this application. No condition.
All right. Do I have a seconder? Second by Ms. Klein. All in favor of that motion? Okay, that's unanimous. That application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. Item number 14. 53 Caribou Road. The purpose of the application is to construct a new dwelling. This application was deferred on May 7th of this year. We have a couple of variances: lot coverage, building height, side main wall height, number of stories, front yard setback, and east side yard setback on file. In addition to material from the applicant, we have correspondence with community planning, as well as a letter of concern from number 51 and 54 Caribou. Welcome, sir. Oh. Sure. Make sure the button's on the mic.
Did you hear that? Do you want me to restate everything?
Let's repeat. Should we have it on
Lauren
the record?
Rose, 388 Spadina Road. I'm the architect.
Thank you, Mr.
The reason for the deferral last time was because the city neglected to mail out the notices, so there was
All right.
notice given.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rose, we will have a presentation. We do have one neighbor virtually here.
Okay.
So I'll get the 5 minutes up, and whenever you're ready.
So I will read this because I got to stay under 5 minutes. So you will note that variance 2, we are going to drop down from 10.89 to 10.24. City planning staff have reviewed this application and support this modified approval. I'll walk you through the variances. Number of stories. The opposition's central argument is that the 3-story dwelling conflicts with neighborhood character. The committee's own approval record directly contradicts this. Our research, which is extensive, shows at least 19 approvals for 3-story dwellings in this immediate neighborhood. That's before the bylaw changed, and now many of the houses that I did in this neighborhood are now considered 3-story houses. There are 3 3-story houses on this tiny little block, one directly across the street and 2 beside it. In terms of the neighborhood character, this argument that it does not fit the neighborhood cannot be a reasonable explanation. I also want to note that should I put a basement unit in here, 3 stories would be permitted. Multiplexes do allow 3 stories. Variance for lot coverage. The proposed lot coverage of 41.7 represents a 6.7 percentage point variance above the 35% permitted. In this area, there are zones that allow 35 and 30%. There are many applications that have a delta of much more than 6.7%. I could give you addresses if you want. 22 Frontenac has 46%, which is 11 points over. So that delta over the 35% zone is a zone where the committee has approved far larger deviations as well within the range of what has been considered minor and appropriate here. The subject property is relatively constrained in size, and the proposed gross floor area remains comparable to recently constructed dwellings in the neighborhood. For building height, we have proactively reduced the building height from 10.89 to 10.24, a good faith response to city planning comments. The revised height is consistent with heights approved for similar dwellings in the area, including 22 Frontenac, where it have a height of 10.8 meters when 10 was permitted. A 0.24 variance above the permitted limit is truly minor in nature. Sidewall height is similar. The variance is 0.24. This is really for aesthetics. It's quite minor, and there are many houses that have gables in this neighborhood that would have variances for side walls or front walls. That part of the bylaw is a little tricky. Front yard setback. The reduced front yard setback is minor and occurs at a localized point in the middle of the building due to the angular orientation of the footprint. The overall streetscape relationship to is fully maintained, and the deviation has no impact on neighboring properties. Side yard setback. The reduced side yard setback yard is limited to a localized pinch point, and in most cases well exceeds the required setback. The results from the geometry of the lot. Adequate separation from the adjacent property is maintained. No objections have been raised by the east side neighbor. Note that the existing setbacks that are the existing house are much smaller than what we are asking for. The big argument in the planner's report is overlook. On the third floor balcony, the balcony exists solely to satisfy Ontario Fire Code egress requirements. It is not a discretionary design choice by the applicant. Privacy screening on the rear is not feasible, but should committee see privacy screening on the sides, that can be done, although the neighbors have not requested it. On the overlook issue, the property at 82 Kimbark is a very deep lot, one of the deepest. The pool is not adjacent to the shared property line. It sits well into the rear yard, as their own aerial photographs confirm. Existing tree coverage and vegetation along the fence line provide meaningful screening at grade. More fundamentally, any two-story dwelling at comparable depth would create similar sightlines towards the pool. The question before the committee is not whether any view exists, but whether the overlook impact is unacceptable. Given the lot configuration, the separation distance, the existing screening, and the fact that the committee has approved three-story homes throughout the neighborhood without imposing special privacy conditions, the answer to the question is no. The impact is very minor and it is acceptable. It is also worth noting that 82 Kimbark Boulevard, it is itself a renovated two-story home, the longest house on the street with deficient side yards. I could not find anything in the Committee of Adjustment, but I have pictures that do not comply. Our proposed depth, actually I won't go into that. So in closing, city staff supports the approval as modified. The adjacent neighbors to one side accept. I've spoken to the other neighbors. One said they agreed, but then wrote in a letter against the 3 stories. Applicant, we have proactively reduced the building height from 10.89 to 10.24 in response to staff concerns. There are at least 19 three-story dwellings in the area. Each variance is minor. All requested deviations are small numerical differences, consistent with or less than what the committee has approved on these streets.
Just final words, Mr. Rose?
Yep, I'm over.
Great. Okay.
Overlook concerns do not rise to an unacceptable impact given the lot depths, separation distance, and existing screenings.
All right.
That's my
Thank
point.
you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, I might have missed it. Can I clarify if Mr. Rose made any changes?
Yes.
Variance 2.
So the changes, Mr. Rose, jump in 10.89 reduced to 10.24, and that's concerning building height. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Rose. We do have.
Any question?
Oh, yes, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Rose at this time? Okay, none. All right. We have another speaker online, I presume, staff? Yes, Mr. Barton.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Michael Barton. I am here on behalf of the owner of 82 Kimbark. My address is 1489 Abbeywood Drive in Oakville.
All right, very good. All right, Mr. Barton, staff, we've got the 5 minutes up on the screen, and whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. So, yes, there were reference from Mr. Rose to my letter, which I had submitted, and I tried to keep my submission very focused on the concerns. The owners of 82 Kimbark, in my opinion, would be one of the most directly affected properties by this proposal, given that their rear yard amenity area is immediately adjacent to the overlook at the rear of the dwelling. So I had provided a written opinion. It included a number of photos which showed the existing conditions. So in those photos, you are able to see, even with the current condition with the larger rear yard and a 2-story, how close that dwelling is to the rear yard of 82 Kimbark. So you can see that there. So as what I noted in my proposal is the concern is really with with this being a relatively shallow lot, the lot coverage variance, and then that 3-story variance is predominantly a concern. And looking at it from the context of this property, not just whether 3 stories exist, and then you'd also have to look at whether other dwellings that are considered 3 stories actually have a 3-story massing relative to overlook to neighboring properties. But again, I was really looking at this in the context of my client's property. So this proposal is going to bring the rear wall much closer to my client's property than currently exists today. They're not asking for a rear yard variance, but beyond that, we are seeing that the request for lot coverage that's being increased, and then that third story overlook that's going to be provided to the property. So when we look at the photos that were in my letter, and we can get an idea of how bringing the dwelling closer to the rear yard and then having the 3 stories with a balcony would result in privacy and overlook. So my concerns as it related to the tests, I heard Mr. Rose's comments about there being other 3-story homes in the neighborhood. But again, I would point to the purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. As it relates to the third story, there's an intent to ensure that there's compatibility of height. So the overlay here specifically seeks to have 2 stories versus 3 stories or more to ensure there isn't privacy and overlook impact. My opinion is it's clear that that third story with windows and a balcony is going to provide a clear privacy and overlook impact to the neighboring property. In terms of the lot coverage, again, building scale and density is not only a function of building setbacks. There's an aim to provide an appropriate amount of open space, including in that rear yard. So this is going to facilitate a greater amount of the lot being occupied by built form and a reduction in that rear yard space. When you look at the variances, individually and cumulatively, my opinion is that you're going to have height, massing, and scale, and a reduction in open space that's not only significantly different than currently exists and is permitted, but that's going to significantly change the privacy and overlook characteristics relative to 82 Kimbark. And in my opinion, that's not going to be desirable for this context. My opinion is that impact will be unacceptable, and that was the primary concern of these neighbors, was how that privacy and overlook will be to their rear yard once the new dwelling is constructed. So that's the basis for my submission and concerns with whether the 4 tests were met.
All right, thank you. Questions? Okay, thank you. We don't have any other speakers on this. We'll turn it back to Mr. Rose at this time and provide him an opportunity to respond to some of the planning rationale that Mr. Barton put forth.
Sure. If staff can pull up his diagrams that show the lot configuration and zoom in. I will say I reached out to Mr. Barton and all the neighbors, and Mr. Barton did not contact me. He talks about how much closer this new house is to, the second one, the one with the photo, is to the rear yard. Well, okay, so we're closer, but there is no variance for rear yard setback. That's just a new house. The existing house is small. So if you can see, he's complaining that the neighbor at 82, which is the perpendicular lot with the pool, it's the longest lot in this neighborhood. And they're complaining that the overlook, well, if you're worried about overlook, you don't buy the second lot in from a corner lot where your neighbors are backing onto your side yard. So there's plenty of screening here. There should be no concern for the 3 stories, because that's the big argument. The house next door is 3 stories to the left, and so is the one on the corner. You can't see the one opposite the street. If you pull up my presentation, please, I'll show you a bunch of the 3 stories. He talked about the purpose and intent of the bylaw. He wasn't there when the bylaw was written, so he can't pontificate on what the purpose and intent of the bylaw is. Compatibility with height. The height is minor that we're asking for. It's 10.24. 3 stories is allowed if I had a basement unit here, which I could easily do. He's complained about open space in the rear yard. There is no landscape open space variance here either. So if you pull up my presentation, I think it's called Final C of A. Nope, that's wrong files. That's a different file. Go to the top of it. No, scroll down, I think. Is that the end? Go to the front of it, the beginning of it then. Oh, sorry, those are 3-story houses. Sorry, that last page. The last page, those are the 3-story houses. They're labeled 3. So the 2 adjacent and 1 across the street. If you go up one sheet. That diagram shows that his client's property is the longest house on this block longest lot, there is one at 76, but I believe that's 18.25 in length. Don't show a variance. The side yard setbacks aren't compliant either. Keep going up. This is we're going backwards from my presentation, but that's okay. So zoom out if you don't mind. These are all 3-story houses, many of which I have done. You can just scroll through. These are all in the area. Some would have been considered 2-story houses when they came to committee, but they are now all considered 3-story houses. That's the house beside, that's across the street, and the next one is on the corner. And then this is the view from the backyard. That's our view. I'm looking at the fence. That is Mr. Barton's client's house. Sorry, I'm looking at the fence at this pool. So we're not, if he's entertaining by his house, there's no overlook. If you go up one, that is his setback, which is non-compliant on both sides of his client's setback, sorry. And go up one more. That's the subject house, a derelict house. And I'm here to answer any other questions. We do believe that this does meet the intent Planning Act. It does meet the 4 tests, not the intent, because I wasn't there for that. So I can answer any questions.
Mr. Roche, so I think I've heard you say earlier that the purpose of the balcony is more of a fire safety.
Only for fire safety.
Okay, so we don't have interior floor plans, but you have labeled the location. Is my general understanding that that 3rd floor really is a secondary bedrooms, number 4 and 5, not a primary
yes.
bedroom, a secondary bedroom, accessed by. And that's the only access is directly from that bedroom. It's not like this.
Yes, you have to maintain, if you're more than 22 feet above grade, apparently you can jump from 21 feet, but you can't jump from 22. You have to have a balcony where a fire rescue can put up a ladder and rescue you.
Okay, understood. Members, do you have any questions for Mr. Rose? All right, none. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Okay, let's take this matter into committee now. Ms. Sinkar Peralta.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so I could just, I guess, start off the discussion, looking at this, I think I remembered sort of this coming back and the intent to sort of like work through issues with planning. And so looking at this, sort of the biggest pieces for me was around, the 3-story as well as the lot coverage. And for those reasons, I was looking to hear what would be spoken about with respect to this. And I do believe that, and I mean I could be wrong from other members what they have to say, but I feel really compelled by the arguments made by the agent here today to say that there are other types of bills that show a 3-story in the neighborhood. It's a very small block. So it's, when I think of 3, I'm like, well, that's not many. But when you look at the numbers of homes, it's not that many either. And sort of like the rest of the other variances seem to be, to me, to be too minor to discuss anyway. There was a change made to assist city planning's comments of April 30th. And, that was sort of addressed as well around the building height. So, and there's nothing you can do with respect to sort of like the balcony once it gets to like a 3rd level, that's important and permitted for safety reasons. I don't know. I'm just looking to other members to help me out if they're feeling differently about this to explain why, because I'm feeling positive still about this application.
Thank you, Ms. Sinkar Peralta. I personally, I don't have any concern with the variance concerning the 3rd story, because if you look on the elevation drawings, that 2-story is defined essentially by the main wall of the building. The 3rd story is set into the roof very clearly, and access to that roof is made via a series of dormers and windows and small balconies. In fact, I would technically, I don't know, looking to the architect, I'd call this a
totally agree.
2.5-story. a half story pertaining to the roof. Whether or not those dormers are there, the roof can still be there. We see a lot of roofs, a lot of dead space. I think, also what helps me is that not only is it set within the roof, but the roof itself has a setback off of the main wall. So we've got angular planes and we have setbacks on the third story to mitigate the height. And I'm also satisfied with some of the examples that were given. Again, when I'm seeing other three-story homes in the area, you walk by and you realize it's really just a dormer in the roof. So I don't have concern in that regard. I don't know, other members.
I think I'm also in line with my colleagues. I think that the height is also maintained. It's just I think the applicant is just seeking about like 9 inches extra. So to me, this building looks like a two-story. I mean, it can be a two-story with like extra height of 9 inches. So two-story and three-story, an overlook is not a concern, and there's no building length or rear yard setback variance requested. So overall, I think it's a good application. I don't have any concern.
Yeah. I would say if we are looking for opportunities of intensification, this really is the way to do it. Start to utilize parts of the roof without. I mean, we see applications where the main wall just literally goes up 3 stories, especially when you have the garage stacked and then 2 more levels above that. So, I'll leave it there. I would, though, as a precaution, we may have to check with the agent, but I may feel a little more comfortable if we were to tie 5 and 6, variants 5 and 6 to the site plan, and then as well variants 2, 3, and 4 to the elevation drawings. I don't have concern that it's not going to be that the building's going to change too much, just given the kind of history of this particular agent in the neighborhood, seeing some of the homes that have been built. But I think it's sort of perhaps maybe do good diligence to perhaps ensure. I don't know how you feel if we can just grant a height variance outright, or
I think in the planning report they already asked for variance number 6 to be tied to site plan. But if you want to check with elevation with the applicant, I don't think that's necessary, but that's necessary. But it's up to you.
Okay, I'm personally not too concerned if you aren't. I just perhaps brought it up because typically we do, but actually, I see Mr. Rose standing up.
All I ask, and we're okay with that.
Pull us out of committee to allow Mr. Rose a chance to clarify that for us.
All I ask is if you do, and I have no problem with it, just if you use the word substantially in accordance with, because I couldn't make it smaller if it was, I had this problem once before.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Okay, let's move back into committee now. So we've heard from Mr. Rose substantially in accordance with elevation drawings, if needed. But I don't have too much concern.
Yeah. So I can try to forward a motion and see how it goes.
Sure. Yeah.
So I forward a motion to approve this application as amended. So variance number 2 to be reduced to 10.24, and also variance number 6 related to east side yard setback to be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan attached to the report.
All right. Okay. Do I have a seconder? Ms. Klein, second that motion. All in favor? All right. That is unanimous. That carries. The motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Okay. That concludes item number 14. Item number 15, 1580 Avenue Road. The purpose of this application is to permit a recreation use, specifically a fitness club. One variance related to use. On file, we got a report from community planning, as well as a letter of concern from Unit 202 at 355 Bedford Park Avenue. All right.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Vishu Sood, and I'm the principal architect of EcoArt Consultants Inc. And my address is 7 Blue Spruce Street, Brampton, Ontario.
Thank you, Mr. Sood.
I'm appearing today. Yeah, you're very welcome.
Before you get going, I just want to confirm. We have testing. Testing, testing. Oh. Mr. Sood, you may have two devices on. We're getting some reverb in the chambers.
Pardon me?
It looks like you have two devices on. Can you turn one of them off because it's causing an issue, technical issue?
Uh,
Oh, are you watching YouTube?
no. There's only one device.
All right, staff. In the meantime, can we just mute Mr. Sood? We'll come back to him. Is anybody here in the gallery to speak to this item? All right, and staff, we have somebody online. We do. Okay. Mr. Sood, I'm going to ask for a presentation from you. We'll get the 5 minutes up on the screen whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Okay. So can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm appearing today on behalf of our client Anytime Fitness in support of this minor variance application for the proposed fitness facility at 1580 Avenue Road. So, but firstly, at the outset, I would like to thank the committee for the opportunity to present this application. The proposal before you represent an opportunity to accommodate a modern fitness facility within an existing mixed-use residential building, while maintaining the intent of the city's planning framework and creating no adverse planning impacts. The application does not seek any increase in building height, density, building footprint, or site coverage. The proposed facility is contained within an existing ground floor commercial unit of a 7-story mixed-use condominium building with 3 levels of underground parking, which is already provided. So this requested variance relates solely to the permitted interior floor area of a fitness club. As we know, the modern fitness facilities have evolved significantly beyond the traditional gym model. Members do not simply enter a facility and proceed directly to a free weight area. Rather, they typically engage in a complete wellness journey that includes cardiovascular training, functional movement, strength conditioning, stretching, etc. The additional floor area is intended to accommodate these complementary functions that are now considered essential components of contemporary fitness facilities. Furthermore, most importantly, the proposed variance does not increase the free weight area, which is generally recognized as the primary source of gym-related noise. The free weight functions are accommodated within the approved recreation area under a separate already approved building permit. The additional floor area is intended primarily for cardio, functional training, mobility, and recovery activities, which generate significantly lower levels of noise and operational impact. In fact, the proposal provides an important community serving amenity for both building residents and the surrounding neighborhood, while utilizing existing approved commercial space without any physical expansion of the development. Therefore, in our professional opinion, the proposal maintains the general intent and purpose of both the official plan and zoning bylaw, represents desirable and appropriate development, and satisfies all 4 tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. For these reasons, we respectfully request the committee's favorable consideration and approval of the application. Thank you, and I would be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sood. Questions?
You're welcome.
All right, staff, let's get our member online, and please, reminder, please mute Mr. Sood. Thank you. All right, let's hear from we have a neighbor.
Unfortunately, We have some technical issue to unmute the person. online.
Right. Uh, while we're waiting to sort out a technical matter, we're going to just take a 2-minute break and then we will pick up. All right? Very short break.
Beryl, Brenda, if you can hear us, you have to unmute yourself.
All right, and we're back. We just, for those listening in, we're just trying to see if we can connect to one of our speakers.
Mr. Chair, we have the agent, we have the neighbors online over the phone.
Okay, good.
So,
Good afternoon. Hello?
Hi, it's me. Hi.
Hi, your name and address, please.
I can now do it. Now,
Hello?
now, I can talk now?
yes, but please give
Oh.
us your name and address
Okay,
first.
my name is Burl Bruda. I live at 355 Bedford Park. I live in the building.
Very good. And you have some comments or concerns,
Yes,
support?
I have a lot of concerns about.
Okay.
Okay, I understand it's a retail space. No one's having an objection to having retail, but we're having an objection to having this fitness being put in. It's a 24-hour fitness place coming in. Parking is at a premium, and well, P1 is allotted for some parking and also on the street. There's not a, which means it's not going to give a lot of parking for the people to come to visit the people in the building. The noise that's going to happen from the fitness place is going to be a little bit unbelievable. And security. We're also going to have a lot of problems with worrying about the noise from the fitness place. I don't think it's being an appropriate business for that corner retail.
Okay, thank you. Members, questions? Okay, Ms. Bruda, thank you very much. We'll now turn it back to our agent, Mr. Sood.
The free weight section has already been approved. That is the most noisy part of the fitness facility, as we all know, right? This new variance which we are requesting, that is mainly for the other accessory uses like cardio, functional training, wellness, recovery activities. So there is no noisy part in this variance which we are requesting.
Okay.
The building permit has already been obtained for the most of the free weight area. In fact, all of the free weight area.
Okay. Mr. Sood, is this leased? The space?
This is leased, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Members, any questions? We can turn off Mr. Sood. Yeah? Thank you. Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, we do? Okay. Mr. Maziar.
So, as far as I understood, this is just about extra area for the gym, not the use. The use is already allowed in the retail space. Just want a applicant to clarify because I think it helps the neighbor to understand that the gym use is already.
Yes, that's an important distinction. Thank you, Mr. Margiari.
Okay, so basically, as I mentioned, this additional variance which we are requesting is for the other accessory uses like cardio, functional training, and stretching, recovery activities. So this will be basically a supplement to the existing approved plans. The free weight area, the most noisy area, has already been approved, and that is at the back of the portion of the gym. So, as I mentioned, so the new variance which we are requesting, that is solely for these accessory uses, and this will be in fact improve the overall planning, overall use of this recreation area. And it will be benefit for the residents because they simply just do not go straight to the to the free weight area for the exercises. They use all members do simply enter facility and proceed directly to free weight area, rather they typically engage in a complete wellness journey, which includes cardiovascular training, strength conditioning, recovery activities, etc.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sood.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay. You've got everyone muted now? Testing. There we go. Okay, let's take this into committee.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Pizzelli.
Yeah, I think it's a supportable application, and the difference is that Mr. Margiari also indicated also, and the applicant elaborated, make it more clear about the use and so on. So for that reason, I'd like to forward a motion for approval of this application. And that is all. I don't think there is any condition.
All right.
I second that.
We have motion by Mr. Pizzelli, second by Mr. Marziari, all in favor. All right, that's unanimous. Motion carries. Application is approved. All right, item 16, 251 Elm Road. The purpose of this application is to construct a new dwelling. The application was deferred. It was deferred from March 26th. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't deferred. It was refused on March 26th, and we're back. Okay, so we've got two variances for being requested today. FSI and first floor height above established grade. On file, in addition to material from the applicant, memo from Urban Forestry, letter of concern from number 253 and number 255 Elm Road. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Mengdi Zen. The address is 2710 14th Avenue, Markham. I am representing my client, the owner of the property. And first of all, I would like to delete item number 2 from the applications. I'm wondering if I can do that.
Of course, yes. So I heard you would like to modify variance number 2.
Delete, actually,
Oh,
completely
delete.
number 2. So
Okay.
only level 1 variances for the FSI.
Okay, so we're dropping that first floor height down to 1.2. Is that or less? Okay.
1.2 or less.
All right.
Which will comply with zoning.
And I'm just curious, did you have any revised drawings?
Yes, I did submit a presentations, and we also revised the drawings from the original FSI. As I remember, it would be 1.36, and then now we have reduced it down to 1.21, which was approved previously for 249 next to us, about 2-3 years ago. So when now you can see that from our presentation drawings, the wet portion there is actually the one that we have reduced it. That's the FSI area, and also the 1.21 is included the landing, the green portion, the blue portion there. So that is the one and only requirement variances that we would like to ask for. And as you may know, and I believe the previous presenter did actually mention that too. Law 474/2023 actually allow us to have a 4-pax on our subject property, which is with no requirement for FSI, my bad. And also 2 years ago, Ontario Regulations 46224, there's an amendment, and then which actually further reduce the requirement for an FSI of any dwelling unit, or a detached, single detached, or townhouse. Having a secondary unit will no longer require any FSI, just to intensify the build area. And our lot here, if you may scroll down to the map that I have here, maybe 2 page for the presentation piece. Which show the down this one. So as you can see, the blue dot, the blue star there, which show the approved FSI requirement. Approved case all around the area, which is roughly range from 1.21 to 1.28. That's the max that I have, and well, I will have to present the 1.4 meters. So this seemed to be very minor from my point of view, and we have no, we're not asking for any variances regarding the height, side yard setback, front yard setback, or anything. The only thing that we're asking for is the FSI, and a 35 square feet house, new build nowadays, really consider as a moderate house within the area. So I'm happy to answer any questions if there's any. And and also remind you that we don't have any comments from our planning department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions? All right, we have some other speakers. Has anybody come down today in person to speak to this particular item? Okay, staff, we have some people online. All right, let's hear from them.
Jean Pepper is unmuted.
This is Jan Pepper. I'm at 293 Fairlawn Avenue. Good afternoon, and thanks to the Committee of Adjustment for this opportunity. I'm just digesting some of that last data that came in. In the Bedford Park neighborhood, infill homes are increasingly higher, wider, and longer, and cover more of the footprint of the lots on which they're built. The trend is that new builds exceed setbacks, maximum permitted heights, and allowable floor space index. I think in particular along Elm Road, I'm not sure about the other areas where the 1.2 has been approved. The lot sizes are narrow. They're 25-foot lot sizes. And so these oversized homes overwhelm the lots and the homes around them. With homes already in close proximity, encroachment on lot lines is a concern. The space between the proposed home at 251 Elm and the lot line is just 15 inches on each side of the house. So, you know, these new homes look out of place as they tower over existing homes. And the gardens and green space are typically sacrificed to make homes bigger, reducing the green space that the neighborhood is known for. And on these hot days, you know, we understand that Toronto and Bedford Park need more green space for us all to be healthy. So all of this is resulting in a dramatic, permanent, and negative impact on our neighborhood. I would still argue that an increased FSI to 1.2 is not minor, despite the trends upward to double the allowable space permitted. I just wonder, are approvals of 1.2 becoming the new norm? And I have to say, my my participation today came about due to the construction of 249 Elm next door. And I bring this up because in addition to the neighborhood trend of bigger, longer, wider, higher, it appears that there are similarities to the build being discussed today. So I'm on the south side of Fairlawn, just in a semi-detached home at the corner of Fairlawn and Elm. And when I look out my front windows, I see the south side of 249, which, if you can picture it, it's a gray stucco wall that's 40 feet high, up above the homes across the street, and 50 feet long with no windows. So it's a monolith, basically. It's frankly, it was shocking when it came up, and somewhat ominous. It looks more like a concrete side of a commercial building than a home. And I guess I just worry that with homes already built in close proximity, there are serious concerns about the strain of developments of this nature on an already high density neighborhood. Instead of looking in between my north neighbors' homes to the green space and the backyards of the homes on Elm, now I'm looking at a 40-foot high, 50-foot long concrete wall. So with larger homes taking up greater portions of small lots, our loss of green space is going to leave us with fewer mature trees and gardens, and the remaining gardens and spaces will be obstructed and overshadowed, and I think we'll begin to feel boxed in rather than part of a small, welcoming community. So I ask, is 1.2 the new norm? Is that now the tipping point where we can expect homes to be of this nature, with back decks that look down on the neighbors in the area? So I just request that you reject this proposed build in order to preserve the balance and the livability and green space that our neighborhood is known for, as we welcome new families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pepper. Questions? Okay. We have some other speakers.
Hello?
Hello.
I think I'm unmuted.
You are.
My name is Felice Lambermont. I'm at 253 Elm Road.
All
May
right.
I go
thank you.
ahead?
Yes, please, anytime.
Oh, excellent, thank you. I'm the owner of 253 Elm Road, which is situated next door and directly to the north of the property in question. I have reviewed the proposal for 251 Elm Road, and I'm asking the Committee of Adjustment to reject it for the following reasons. Number one, the proposal is fundamentally unchanged from the previous version. In March 2026, this committee considered a proposal for a new single-family dwelling at 251 Elm Road. The proposed home was 11 meters high with a flat roof and included 3 full floors on top of a basement that protruded 7 feet above grade. Above the main floor living space, the second and third floors included 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. The 3 floors were connected via an open staircase with a generous void space. In short, it was a proposal for a large home. That proposal met the requirements for height and setbacks as set out in zoning bylaw 569/2013. However, it asked the committee to approve an FSI of more than double the allowable maximum. It also asked the committee to approve a main entrance elevation that was 20% higher than allowed. The committee rejected the proposal. While reasons for decision were not recorded, the committee members noted during their discussion that the proposal would have resulted in a building of excessive mass with a front entrance that was overly high, that it would have resulted in an excessive shade impact to the north, and that it was, in generally, simply too big for the lot. In summary, the committee determined that the variances requested were found to be not minor in nature, that the proposal was inappropriate for the development of the land, and that it did not meet the purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw or the official plan. A revised proposal is now before the committee. Despite the committee's comments and decision in March, this revised proposal is fundamentally the same building. Based on the drawings that were available to me online, the height and width and main entrance elevation, and that's what I'm speaking to, I was not aware of a change to the main entrance elevation, are unchanged. My written submissions included an Appendix A, which showed that the length has now been reduced by approximately 1 foot on the first and second floor, and by 6 feet on the third, although a long roof overhang has now been introduced on the third floor that mitigates the effect of that reduction. The setback to the rear property line has been increased by approximately 1 foot, but all other setback dimensions and heights remain the same. By my calculation, this creates a reduction in GFA of approximately 16.5 meters squared, which is not significant in a building of approximately 300 square meters. The revised proposal claims a reduction in FSI of 0.11 from 1.32 to 1.21. And in truth, the small changes in overall building dimensions between the original and revised proposals have, by my calculations, generated a reduction of 0.07. The balance of the claim reduction appears to have been generated from a revised interpretation of how that number should be calculated and possibly a correction of some mathematical errors. And I do not believe that this is what the committee requested. Number 2, the revised FSI is unacceptable. There are 2 variances, or at least there were 2 variances that this proposal asked the committee to approve: the elevation at the entryway and the overage of FSI. The FSI is of enormous consequence. I have read bylaw 569/2013 and was surprised to learn that in my neighborhood, if a proposed structure includes a flat roof, then the exterior sidewalls can extend upwards to 11 meters above grade. Further, those walls can be as close as 0.45 meters to my property line as long as they do not have windows. There is no maximum to the number of stories that a house can have, and there is no restriction to how far the basement can protrude above grade. I understand that an argument that will be made that interior design decisions can have significant impact on FSI calculations without materially impacting the exterior appearance of the home. But the fact remains that FSI is the most important single point of control of overall building massing. Minor variances in height, setbacks, and other considerations remain minor as long as the overall massing of the building is sympathetic to its community.
Just
But
be mindful of the
become-
clock.
Oh my goodness.
I'll let you go over a bit, but
Thank you.
but just yeah.
I'll
Don't-
speed up, but
don't take
much
too
more
much advantage.
consequential when the massing is doubled. And I remain confounded by the fact that given how critical this number is, the applications with excessive FSIs continue to move through planning unchallenged. My last point speaks to precedent and notes the fact that the committee knows that it's not governed by precedents and it must make decisions on the basis of the 4 tests of the Planning Act. A proposal that dramatically breaks the existing pattern of development of a community and that creates significant and unmitigated and undesirable effects on its neighbors cannot be seen to meet the standard, even if numerically similar variances have been allowed elsewhere in the community.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you there. I got you
Fair
45
enough.
minutes over. But I've got to ask my colleagues, we have any questions? Okay. All right, thank you. Staff, we do have some other speakers. Yeah, waiting in the queue. Okay, let's hear from them.
Hello? It's my turn, right?
Yes, well, who is this?
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone and members of the committee. My name is Dolores. I live at 254 Elm Road, which is directly across the street from 251 Elm Road. I think that's the applicant. So I'm on the west side of the Elm Road.
Very good.
So, okay. So I'm speaking today in opposition to this application. So I want to say that I agree. I reviewed the material of my 2 neighbors from 253 Elm Road and 255 Elm Road, the letter of objection. So I'm agreeing and supporting them. In their letter, they already explain in detail why this revised proposal is still substantially the same oversized proposal I was previously refused. Although today, at the very beginning, the applicants was saying that they want to remove one of the the height for the garage. So I'm still trying to calculating how it's significantly going to impact the overall height. But still, my perspective is as the neighbor directly opposite to the property, as I'll be facing this house every day, and also that this house will face my bedroom, my personal bedroom, every day. So the proposed height and rise entrance and the prominent 3rd floor with a balcony will have a directly impact on my privacy in the sense of openness of my home and the character of the street. As the other first speaker mentioned that everybody probably will be facing a wall. So, and also it's not just a private concern from an immediate neighbor. So the house that's currently under construction at 254 Elm Road has already caused a significant concern in the community because of the height and the massing, which it's the similar height and the structure that's the 251 proposing. So I've been seeing every day people walking along Elm Road have stopped and comment on how unusual height and imposing the house it is. And actually on yesterday, one person even come up to me and my neighbor at 250 Elm Road, stating my condolencing about the buildings that are gonna be opposite to you guys. So this just shows not only a concern from a household or a couple household or a block, it's a broader community concern about the direction of development in this neighborhood. So also I want to say I'm not opposing to people renovating or wanting to have a big a better a modern house, but I'm opposing this proposal because it's still a really it's still too large for a lot and too dominant from the street, and it doesn't respect the existing character of the neighborhood. So for this reason, I was respectfully asked the committee to refuse the application as so the application can meaningfully address all the concern from the neighborhood and to meet the 4 criteria that's set by the committee and the zoning. There, like, I believe that all the criteria that's set, it's for a reason and for overall good. So if like to reject this application so they can meaningfully reduce the height or front facing the massing and 3rd floor prominence and overall FSI, like Felice mentioned, and like to console all the like affecting neighborhood, that will be, I believe that will be a overall a better like application. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Questions? Okay. I believe we have one more speaker.
Hello, I am Robert McMillan. I am the owner of 255 Elm Road, which is 2 units north of the proposed property. And I'll keep it simple. Essentially, there is a new proposal following the March meeting where there was a resoundingly there was a strong rejection for the previous proposal. The new proposal is essentially the same proposal. That the we can argue about minor details, but fundamentally, what is being proposed here is 3 stories on top of a garage at ground level. And there is literally no building in the neighborhood like this, other than a building that has sprung up since the previous meeting at 249 Elm Road. And Ms. Pepper on Fairlawn spoke to the immense size of that structure. That's too big for that lot. 251 Elm Road is on the same size lot, and it is a massive structure that is too big for the lot. The fellow who spoke earlier was saying it is a moderate house. That is utter nonsense. It's a massive lot on a moderate, massive house on a moderate-sized lot. He invoked 249 Elm Road, and we've been back and looked at the documentation that underlay the proposal for 249, and one of the sections is neighbours supporting 249 Elm Road, and frankly, it's a misstatement of what the neighbourhood sentiment was. So, for instance, 339 Saint-Germain is listed as a neighbour supporting. Martin and Gale are next door. They were never shown a drawing of the massive structure. The same applies to Dolores. The same applies to the other neighbours immediately adjacent. There was never a picture of what a massive structure 249 would entail. So people are shocked by the scale of 249, and essentially 251 is the same kettle of fish. It is a monster house on a modest size lot, and it really needs to be rejected. I think that's the essence of what I wanted to say. I'll just add one thing, which is a theme in the discussions today has been working with the neighbours. So if you were to get your proposal rejected, presumably you'd go round to see the neighbours and try and work through some kind of compromise proposal. When I wrote this document before the committee, there had been no attempt to engage with the neighbours. This Sunday, there was a knock at the door. Someone came saying, I have a gift for you. My wife answered. Then the person said, do you approve 251? And she said, no, it's way too high. And then the person just left. That's bribery. Can we have a proper discussion about what the norm in the neighborhood should be? 249 Elm Road, which is under construction, it's shooting up, is a norm-busting proposal. It's way too big. And 251 shouldn't be able to just piggyback off that, and then everyone, this notion that everyone's fine with it is ridiculous. People walk down the street, their jaws drop at the size of 249. So we've got that information, and then 251 just wants to do the same. One, in my remaining few seconds, I'll just say, Felisa's picture from last time showing the scale of the new property relative to 253 Elm Road, it dwarfs it. So that was, yeah. Yeah, anyway,
right.
that's from the March meeting.
Thank you, thank you. Members, questions? Okay. Staff, do we have any more speakers? Okay. Let's go back to the agent now, but provide him an opportunity to respond to some of the concerns raised by the immediate neighbors.
Hi there. Okay. First of all, I would like to mention one thing. We are only asking for one variances, which is the floor space index. And within the zoning of this property, we are allowed to have 40% lot coverage and without any requirement for FSI if we are if we're proposing to have a multi-fax. And also, if we are going to propose a secondary unit, even within the basement, I could go without the FSI and won't have any problem getting a zoning certificate with that. The main reason that we are here is our clients who would love to live in there and don't want to actually have a secondary suite. Replying to the neighbors' comments, or is this a bribery? If someone go to your house and try to talk to you, and you just simply say no to them, and I believe the girl there is in her early 20s, okay, and she's one of the relative of the owner. Anyway, that's never mind about this. But so my point is, we don't have any issue with lot coverage. Well, actually, there's no requirement for lot coverage. We don't have any issue with height, setback, and massing. We actually reduced the first story to from the front and back. As one of the neighbors said, that we actually set back the rear about 6 feet from the exterior building. So the actual exterior rear wall would be at 8.5 meter, if I'm not mistaken, and also the front one too. So up to the second story. So once it's up to the third story, we go all the way up to 11 meters, which is the portion in between. So we string down the bit of the third floor. And again, we don't have any issue even with planning department. And it's if I could, if you if one could help me to scroll down the presentation down to the page with all the precedent houses close by. I just want to show you the area around here. Can I?
Yes, the time is yours.
No, I mean the scroll down the presentation down to the page with the where the picture is. There are a couple. There are houses down. See, this is the exact same. Well, I won't say exact same thing, but more or less, this is the house type. The new, or at least most of the new build around the area. So I really don't see any 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 problem with our proposal. It's all the new builds at least, if not the bungalow or the two-story houses, which was built back at the 1950s. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions from the members, if there's any.
All right, thank you. So I'm trying to understand, does the emission of variance, the second variance for the first floor height, does that mitigate the bulk and size of the massing in any way? Like what did we achieve from dropping that first floor height? How did that make the building better? Because it's an interior change, right? How does that change the
Yes, that's an
envelope?
interior change to the because the I believe the zoning requirement is 1.2, which is to set all the front entrance at a certain level so that from the streetscape it looks the same, and the house won't be I mean the front door and the front porch won't be stick up. So, and to us, when we review this applications, and then we noticed that the area underneath the actual entrance area is kind of useless in the basement, so we don't really need that 1.5 meters. So I talked to the client and I told them, like, see, if we could just drop this thing down, then at least we don't make that much of an impact to the area, I mean to the streetscape.
Okay, so
Answer your question?
is it my understanding then that the first floor height is now based off of the front entryway? Is there still steps within the interior that whereby the bulk of the first floor plate has that moved, or we're just talking about the front foyer?
The front foyer. We're dropping the front foyer with the front door.
Okay, so that's
the
variance.
requirement.
Okay,
And from the exterior, I don't think you will be able to see
okay,
where the second floor.
fair. Okay. I also I'm wondering about access. The biggest difference that I'm seeing between, I think the biggest difference I'm seeing between your property and the property directly adjacent, which we've talked a lot about with the approval, it looks like that the neighbor still maintains a walkway, right? I see that the easement document that the easement's going to be removed. How do your clients intend to deal with the access? Because you've essentially cut off your access from the front to the back and landlocked the property, haven't you?
Yes, we did, and that's why, as I said, if we're going to provide that access, because we need the width for the house and for the interior. If we are going to cut off that access, and then actually I don't really need that. I could just provide secondary units for the basement, and then I don't have to come here.
Okay, and is there something specific you can point to back that up, where you say that you need the width of the building? Like, is there a technical, is there something within, whether it's a parking space or there's something that requires the building to be that wide?
If you go to the please go to the basement plan, please, first.
Because it seems the neighbors directly adjacent have a similar, they've been approved for a similar building, but they have been able to maintain the access via providing more than 0.45 meter setback, at least on one side, right? So I'm trying to understand.
If you look at my garage, then you can see the width of the garage.
Right.
And compared to the storage area, which is where the access from the foyer. If I'm trying to gain more space for that area from the foyer for the foyer. See that's where the width of the garage is, which is about.
I know you're trying to get more space, but you said to me that it was a required, you were required to have that. You absolutely had to have that width on the building in order to make it work. I'm looking at the drawing, and I'm seeing large, in the most part, large open spaces. So I question what the need is for reduction to 0.45 on both sides, such that now you've restricted the access. I have one more question, and then I'm going to allow you to respond. If we can just scroll back to the precedent images in the supporting material, So I have two comments here. You know, a lot of the side yard setbacks, right, on all of these examples that you've provided, from what I can see, all of these properties have access via the side yard to the rear on at least one side. You know, it's not just access, but I see things like, you know, bins, like the side access is, you know, there's a functionality to those sides, right, to provide that access. So that's the first point. I just like a little bit more rationale from you. The second is, you know, in all these examples you provided, you know, if I count, I see a garage and then I see 2 stories above the garage in every example. The difference in this application is, and I heard this from the neighbor, is the concern is that there's a garage and then there's 3 stories above the garage. So are there examples in the neighborhood that can support this, where you have the garage with an additional 3 stories above? Because I'm seeing 2 for the most part in the examples that you've shown. I mean,
Well, I
maybe
believe the top,
114 Melrose Avenue, I can see a bump out, but the rest, in the large part, they're largely in part, they're 2 stories above the garage. Is that fair observation?
the one on the right-hand side, lower right-hand side, they have another story on top.
At 250, the neighbor directly adjacent, directly next door. At 253, right?
We're at 251, so 250, 249, I think that's the one that.
Oh, sorry, 249. I apologize. You're right, 249. So 249 has 3 stories above the garage then.
Mm-hmm. But we don't have a requirement for a story though.
But you're asking for FSI, right? So I have to ask these questions, because when we talk about FSI, and
Yes,
I think that
I do understand that.
one of the neighbors did a good job of pointing this out, right? If, you know, the bylaw is written to, you know, it's written with the fact in mind that there's lots of properties and lots of different conditions. So if you design something, you're an architect, you understand the bylaw, and you design a building that maxes out every variance. So you've gone to 0.45 meters because now you said, oh, I can take out the windows on the side. And you've done that on both sides. You've maxed out the height. You've maxed out, you just maxed out, right? So, you know, this is where FSI comes into play, right? Because it's sort of the last thing in the bylaw that really kind of says, okay, collectively, is everything sort of working? Is everything, all the checks and bounds here? So that's why I'm asking these questions. If you know, when you're dealing with FSI, you're dealing with bulk and massing, right? You're allowing that floor space. So this is why I'm having these questions. I'm struggling myself, and I want to provide you an opportunity to address that.
Yes, and so that is the reason why we reduce the front and back of the house on the third story, so that from the streetscape, the massing would be less impact. Will provide less impact to the actual streetscape.
Okay. All right. And lastly, I'm going to ask, before I ask my colleagues if they have any questions. There's been a lot of discussion about a recent approval next door. Has either the agent or opposing parties provided any photos of what that building looks like? Do we have any drawings? Do we have any elevations? Do we have anything to be able to use to support the rationale that you're putting forward about this building? Because I think it's, Mr. Marjorie, it's 249. At 249.
Is that a question for me?
It's a question for you. Do we have anything in the file? I'm looking through my file and I'm surprised.
I don't have anything submitted for that. No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, members, do we have any questions? Yeah. It would have been helpful. I think I just so my colleague just said it would have been helpful to have access to that decision, right, from 249, because we're trying to compare apples. It's I don't think we can at this time because the material hasn't been submitted on the file, so it wouldn't be fair to introduce that evidence at this time. But
The decision, but not the drawings. Attached to this
the
presentation.
decision is in the file. We have the decision in the
The
file.
very back of it. That's 103 pages, so it's 249 is somewhere in there. That's the previous one. So no.
All right. Okay.
No, it go all the way down. There's a bunch of decision, previous decisions attached to this presentations. They bundle up because yeah, you might have to go all the way down to the very bottom of it. Do you have the same presentation? That's the one that we have for the online. There's the support document there. You can see that all those things are like right below.
Mr. Chair, I see it through Google Earth if you need to.
Okay. Might have an updated version. In any case, I do think we need to move on. I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have any questions at this time. I've taken up a lot of the question period, but okay. All right. No questions. Okay. Let's take this into committee. We spent a lot of time on this file. I think we should be able to render a decision. Okay. So now we're in committee.
Mr. Chair, through you, I just have a comment. Again, all of the bases that you covered in your line of questioning were very much what I had questions on, but again, I just feel that the mass of this structure is too big for a lot of land, and that's the position that I have right now. So that's my comment on
Okay.
this application.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Klein.
I can just comment. I
Please,
think,
Mr. Secretary.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I agree with my colleague. I think it's a big mass, but on the other side, we're just dealing with one variance, and it's FSI. I think the proposal is compliant with all the setbacks. I understand it's like a foot and a half on each side, but I'm quite familiar with this neighborhood. I actually built one house a little bit further up north, and I think it's a dense neighborhood, and it's not uncommon to have like these side of setbacks. But I totally agree with my colleagues and also neighbors that it's a massive structure, and it could have been done a little bit like architecturally a little bit more bulky, comparing to what's happening in the neighborhood. And unfortunately, I can't see the other proposal next door, but I can guess what's happening there. But I haven't made up my mind yet, but this is just my comment.
Okay. Mr. Fazeli, do you have any? Okay. All right. Other comments? Perhaps a motion. This is I will just put this forward. Sometimes in committee we have tough decisions. These calls get very close, particularly where applicants have gone back and made amendments to bring it closer in line. The closer you get, the more tough our job becomes as members, because we have to make a decision one way or another.
I can try a motion.
Yes, Mr. Marziari, please.
Well, honestly, I think that the FSI itself is not a problem for me. If it was combined with other variances, that would be a problem. But since the applicant is compliant with height, setbacks, building length, rear yard setback, front yard setback, I think to me it's a supportable application. So I put forward a motion to approve this application with reforestry condition number 3.
Oh, wait,
And also variance number 2 to be eliminated.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Marziari. That looks like we have a second by Ms. Sankar Peralta. Okay, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? All right, motion fails. Oh, hold on. Okay, we can't have applause. I and I understand that your item's coming up, but we gotta maintain some professionalism in the chamber. Okay. All right. Sorry.
Three.
Oh, opposed, Ms. Klein, Mr. Allison, and Mr. Fazeli. So I believe there's only we need a.
I can try a new motion.
Sure, Ms. Klein.
I put forward a motion to refuse this application based on the fact that, we've pushed the envelope of the mass of the structure to the point where we needed this one variance, and I don't think it is minor in nature. So I would put forward the motion to refuse the application.
All right, that's second by Mr. Fazeli. All in favor? Okay, the motion carry, opposed. Opposed, Mr. Marziari and Ms. Sankar Peralta. So the motion carries and the application is refused. Okay. All right. That was a tough one, I will say. All right. Okay. App number 17, 447 Horsham Avenue. Yes. Sure. Okay. It's 3:50 right now. My colleagues have asked for a 5-minute break. I know everyone's been waiting patiently. We will start at 3:55, next 5 minutes, with item 17, 447 Horsham Avenue. All right. We are back. We ended on item number 16. Now we're on item number 17, 447 Horsham Avenue. And the purpose of this application is to construct a 3-story apartment building containing 6 dwelling units and a 2-story garden suite in the rear yard of the property. Variances for this are east interior side yard setback, west corner side yard setback, distance between main walls, omission of a bicycle maintenance facility, front yard setback, first floor height, platform encroachment into a side yard setback, setback of a stair from a west side lot line, and vehicular access from a flanking street. Oh, thank you. We got my camera back on. All right. Okay. For the garden suite, we have variances for soft landscaping, rear yard setback, west corners side yard setback, ancillary structure height, separation distance from a main building, height, GFA, side yard setback for a platform, and omission of privacy screening. On file, we have letters of concern from 12 Cobden Street, 412-447 Horsham Avenue, 311-362 Ellerslie Avenue, and a petition with signatures from area residents, as well as a late report from community planning. All right, we've got our agent online.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee panel. My name is Mehdi Ajman, 3429 Yonge Street from Hyphen Studio, and I'm here as the architect of project and representative of my client, the owner of 447 Horsham Avenue. Before going through the presentation, I would like to introduce some improvement and adjustment that we have to the list of variances. If I may, I can go through those improvement and adjustments.
Yes, please do. Before we start, those modifications, can you just confirm that they are in line with the red line notice in our package?
Exactly. They are the same, plus 2 suggestions that planning department suggested through the late report that they have. Yes, they are aligned with what we have on the screen.
Okay, we've got quite a few people here. Take us through the modifications one by one. Sure. In the order listed on the notice. So,
sure.
All right.
The variance number 1, the number that we are asking for the side setback is still remain the same, but the requirement will be changed from 5.5 meter to 2.4 meters since we eliminated all primary window from that side. Variance number 2 and 3 remain. Variance number 4 has been eliminated. Variance number 5, 6, 7 remain, and variance number 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12 eliminated. Variance number 13, which we don't have it on the screen because due to the late submission of a staff report, we improved this variance and asking for the 5 meter height instead of 6 meter height for variance number 13. Same thing for variance number 14. The requested height is 5 meter instead of 6 meter. Variance number 16, 17, that's all. These 16 and 17 has been eliminated as well. Basically, we are in before committee for 6 variances for the main building and 3 variances for the garden suites.
Okay, thank you for that. Before you get going, just a quick question. So I presume you had a zoning review done of this application, and then you went to file at committee immediately. Why? I mean, there's so many variances that have been altered here that,
yes, sir.
Yeah, why not amend the application, get an update to the zoning notice, or update your before the public notice goes out, and then we have to amend it to this degree? I mean,
we tried our
yeah.
Yes. We tried our best to do that one as a good practice. We usually do for most of our project. In this case, because the zoning review has been conducted through the Houseplex, but later on the zoning examiner informed us that it should be reviewed under apartment building. And we have very extensive communication and collaboration with planning department and the transportation. That's why we had to, and it happens after receiving the zoning notice and also scheduling the committee hearing. That's why we had to go through those adjustment with the planning department. And as you can see, even in a late staff report we received, there are still, two suggestions that we are totally okay to implicate those. That's why this happened through this improvement. But most of this improvement, it was, mostly technical because, for example, we have like a requirement of long-term bicycle. We show that we don't need requirement of long-term bicycle. Basically, the general concept of design stayed the same. We also have a situation, we try to propose, get access from the Bathurst Street and propose up to 4 parking spots. At the very last moment, transportation informed us due to the policy compliance, it is not possible and they are not in support of getting access from Bathurst Street. That's, an elimination of those parking required, 3 or 4 of these variances has been removed because of the access from the Bathurst has been removed.
Okay, all right, very well. I won't take a bit more time. I want to get us going. 5 minutes are up whenever you're ready.
Sure. If I can have the presentation document on a screen, I really appreciate that. I know that we have some neighbor attending for the hearing, so I try to be as fast as possible. The property located at 447 Horsham Street, located at the southeast corner of Horsham and Bathurst Street. The property is eligible for residential densification through official plan amendment 727 and related zoning bylaw amendment, which we all know this as EHON major street densification. So we are eligible for some residential densification. Basically, our property is located, we have a bus stop exactly in front of our property on Bathurst Street, and due to proximity to the public transportation, it is very well equipped with public transportation. Just for the sake of visual introduction, I chose, a sample that we have on major street guideline through on the first page of this application on the top right corner. Basically, this is type of the building form, one of the general type of building form we are encouraged to propose in this kind of application. If we can go to exactly the next page. We also did investigation about the context of neighborhood, specifically on a Bathurst Street. As you can see on the next page, we do have so many similar cases, purpose-built rental, which we are purpose-built rental. We have a 3-story rental building at 4750 Bathurst, exactly in front of our building. Next page, we can see the picture of that. Exactly in front of our property on the other side of Bathurst Street, 3-story residential building. We have 2 blocks north at 125 Stafford Avenue. We have 4-story residential building. In front of that, we have at 2 Mascot Avenue, 7-story, 7 to 8-story residential building. So basically, we noticed that we are not the first one, and we are actually aligned with the use on the Bathurst Street as a major street. The application which is in front of you, as through all this improvement I introduced, it is a result of very extensive collaboration and consultation with the planning department, transportation, and also communicating with our affected adjacent neighboring property. Even during this collaboration, planning department encouraged us to apply for more densification. But due to my client personal decision and feasibility of the project, and also the fact that we wanted to have more aligned with the neighborhood, we try to limit ourselves to 3-story building with a smaller footprint. As you can see, I try to have like a visual comparison about what we could get or what we could propose as of right and what we are proposing now. The red marked area is the as of right footprint that we could apply with no variances over there. As you can see, we could encroach more to the front, we could encroach more to the back. On a side setback, we have just a small extra space we are asking. If we can go to the next slide. Here is basically the visual comparison of the height that we could get. As I mentioned, for the major street, typically we are allowed to go up to 6-story residential building with 19-meter height and up to 60 units. And this is basically the height that we could apply as of right. As I said, we try to limit ourselves for a project which is more aligned with the context of neighborhood. I also have like a visual comparison about the shadow for the building, comparing what we are proposing and what as of right could make it. If we can go to the last page of presentation. The next one, please. Yes, here. Again, the red mark area is the as of right shadow, and the blue mark area, which you can see it is mostly less than, that part is what we are proposing. Basically, we are generating less shadow, we are generating less mass, and we are generating less units for this application. The only, I know that, we have some neighbor. I just want to go through one of the variants, which is for the front setback. If we can go back to 2 pages before this page of presentation. I just need to, the previous one, please. On this side plan, we are asking for front setback variance, but this front setback variance is it happened because of the daylight triangle that we have at the northwest corner of our property. As you can see, the general mass of building, even it is further than required front setback. The blue mark area I mentioned on this side plan, I indicated on this side plan, this is required front setback, but we step back to be aligned with our neighbor at the east side. And that number for front setback, it is just at the corner of daylight triangle. I stop here and we'll be more than happy to address any question and then any concern from our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. There's a lot to take in. Okay, members, questions? I'm just, again, I'm going to ask, please refrain from any reaction comments in the gallery. I want to maintain fairness among parties and a certain level of decorum within the chambers, please. Okay, that said, we have a number of speakers on this. So how many people have come today to speak? How many speakers do we have in total? In 4? Okay. Oh, okay. I see 11. 5? Okay. I'll say this. Anybody that feels that they want to speak, that it is your opportunity. There's no restriction on the number of people that can speak on a file. I will ask though, it's helpful if larger groups can coordinate so we don't have the same people repeating the same points. So maybe certain groups or parties can take on certain arguments. Fantastic. Great. All right. Welcome. Your name and address.
My name is Tom Viriotis, and I live at 412 Horsham Avenue.
All right. Okay. We've got the 5 minutes up.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, to the applicant, and to my fellow members of West Senlac Willowdale Neighbors Association. My name is Tom Viriotis. I live at 412 Horsham Avenue, less than 200 meters from 447 Horsham. I am here to respectfully but firmly oppose this application. Upon our community hearing of the proposal, we met to review it and unanimously opposed it. The applicant is proposing a 6-unit apartment building with a finished basement and a substantial 2-story garden suite, resulting in a built form significantly more intensive than what the zoning bylaw anticipates for this property. To accomplish this on a 5,940 square foot lot, where there is currently only one single family dwelling, the applicant's proposal required 17 variances. After discussion with city staff, this was reduced to 9. The remaining variances I'll list them. Number 1, minimum required side yard setback of 2.4 meters to 1.8 meters, a decrease of 25%. Number 2, minimum required side yard setback from a side lot line of 3 meters to 1.8 meters, a decrease of 40%. Minimum required above ground separation of 2 meters to 1.13 meters, a decrease of 43.5%. Number 5, minimum required building setback of 6 meters to 3.23 meters, a decrease of 46%. Maximum permitted height of the first floor above grade from 1.2 to 1.5, a 25% increase. And number 7, for a platform, maximum required side yard setback of 1.5 meters to 2.54 meters, an increase of 69%. Jumping down to 13, maximum permitted height of an auxiliary structure less than 6 meters away from the main building from a height of 4 meters to 6 meters, a 50% increase. Same for number 14. And number 15, the last one, maximum permitted gross floor area of an auxiliary building from 120 meters square to 153.84 meters square, a 28.2% increase. Now, should the proposal proceed, community planning has recommended reducing the garden suite height from 6 meters to 5. This would still result in a variance of 25%. This illustrates the aggressiveness of this proposal. All the variances would still range from 25 to 69% of the applicable standards. This proposal represents an intensity of development that exceeds what can reasonably be accommodated on this lot while maintaining compliance with established planning framework. It represents a significant departure from the intent of both the official plan and the zoning bylaws, which was not contemplated for this property or community. Another indicator of the scale of the intensity of this proposal is the floor space index, the FSI. The proposed development has an FSI of approximately 1.66, meaning the total floor area of about 9,840 square feet is roughly 166% of the lot area, which is 5,940 square feet. This FSI is typical of a larger apartment building, not multiplexes or even low-rise apartment buildings. Excuse me. In our view, the application has not demonstrated that the requested variances, even adjusted by community planning, satisfy the 4 tests under section 45.1. They do not maintain the intent of the official plan. They do not maintain the intent of the zoning bylaws. They are not minor in nature, and they are not desirable for the appropriate development of the land. I have lived in Willowdale for nearly 54 years and at 412 Horsham Avenue for more than 17. During that time, I have seen change occur throughout the community, and I recognize that growth is important. It's an important part of the city. However, growth must occur within an appropriate planning framework. In this case, the requested variances are substantial departure from the zoning standards that arise because the proposal seeks an aggressive intensification that this lot was not intended to accommodate. I respectfully ask the committee to focus on the planning merits of this application and the extent of the requested departure from the established planning framework. For these reasons, and because the application has not demonstrated compliance with the 4 tests under section 45.1 of the Planning Act, I respectfully request that the committee refuse the application. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
For clarity, I can't remember if you mentioned, perhaps for the benefit of the audience, that the apartment use itself is not a variance.
The apartment, sorry, can you say that again?
The apartment use is not a variance, it's permitted.
All right, yes.
Maybe just for the benefit of the
point of clarification, we're not dealing with a use variance for an apartment building.
You're not dealing, sorry?
There's no variance for use of the lot as an apartment building, is what our deputy secretary treasurer is saying. Just want a point of clarification.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We have some other speakers.
Mr. Chairman, other members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Hera Ramlakan, and I live at 445 Horsham Avenue. I'm immediately next to the proposed project.
Yes. Yeah,
so my story is a personal impact story of what this project means to me and my family. While we're aware of the city has a housing shortage, I'm sorry, is there an issue?
No, I'm looking to see what staff put up on the screen. So just a point of clarification, we've got your letter of objection up on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also just noted that this is the immediate neighbor at 445. It's just checking out the location map to understand who's
I am
speaking.
the neighbor.
And you're the immediate neighbor. All right. very
Thank
good.
you. So while we are aware the city has a housing shortage, when our family decided to leave Etobicoke and move into North York over 20 years ago with our 2 young children, we heavily relied on the bylaws governing our neighborhood, a quiet, single-family neighborhood. Allowing for these many variances, and I understand an apartment building use is not at issue, but allowing for these many substantial variances from those bylaws would turn, in my argument, the planning bylaws on its head. That decision would be absolutely unfair and adversely impact my family. This proposed apartment building right up against the western side of our property would undoubtedly substantially interfere with the continued use and enjoyment of our home. The height of this building would create a taller wall against the west side of our property, cutting off natural lighting on the west side. The bedrooms on the west side, which are substantial bedrooms, I mean, they're not dense, they're real bedrooms, would be staring into a solid wall right across and above, aggravating the anxiety and claustrophobia of one of our children. We are appealing for this committee to consider our unique circumstances in arriving at its decision. This windowless wall would be akin to a prison wall blocking most of the light and air along the western side. The applicant seeks a variation from the bylaws to allow that wall to be placed closer to our home, to our property line. Research indicates that placing buildings too closely together heavily restricts natural cross ventilation for the buildings themselves. This wall would run along the front of our property to the entire length of the house and then along our deck and partially along the lawn. Confined indoors for over 6 months a year, we look forward to spending time in our backyard and our deck, entertaining friends and family, just like most of you will be doing this summer. When we bought our home 20 years ago, how did we know the enjoyment of our property would be so impacted? Would you buy our home with 2 buildings which would have major variances from the current bylaws, I ask? With 7 units, we expect no privacy, which we absolutely are entitled to. I have 2 very young granddaughters, 1.5 years old and 3.5, as I like to say, who visit us from time to time, and never would we expect it to be living next door under these conditions with a building that is asking for so many substantial variances from the bylaw. Then there's a question of traffic safety. As is, we have difficulties reversing out of our driveway into HORSHAM Avenue. We live right at the corner, so there is only one house separating that corner. And the difference in speed limits, people are speeding down Bathurst Street and making a quick right into HORSHAM, and you really have to be very careful doing that. Now, with a taller building right next to blocking my view, my vision, it would be even harder for us to be coming out of our driveway onto HORSHAM Avenue. And not to mention, currently there are issues with parking. To have an apartment building with no parking would leave little room for visitors, for service calls, emergency vehicles, etc. I know my time is almost up. While our family understand the need for the city to effectively address the housing shortage, the city should not do so at the expense of my family. In 2005, our family invested, and I mean this, literally every penny we had into buying this property. The value of our property, which had a significant role in my decision to retire 5 years ago. This proposal to build this project will increase the availability of units by 7. Rental units are already available along existing Bathurst Street. I called up a few apartment buildings on my way here, and they had apartments 1, 2, and 3 bedroom available for rent. On the other hand, this proposal will seriously impact my family, the enjoyment of our property, and we ask this committee to carefully consider our concerns, especially because of our medically related reasons and concerns. And if this committee were to approve this application with those variances, we'd be forced to have to leave this neighborhood and sell our house in this market, which is not a good one. Thank you for listening to our concerns. I really appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Members, do we have any questions? Okay.
Hi, my name is Neela Adamski. I live in 311 Ellerslie. I know I live further from this property, but I am a member of the West Willowdale Association. And this actually concerns me is because I have lived in this neighborhood over 30 years. My concern mainly relates to parking and the waste management. So parking and traffic impacts. I like to bring everyone's attention to the City of Toronto zoning parking location 10.5.80.10 2 states in a residential zone category, minimum of 50% of the parking spaces of an apartment building other than required visitors parking space must be in a building or underground structure by law 89/2022. I like to express my strong opposition because the proposed parking the developer showed on the other side of Bathurst, they all had parking. All the condos had parking and driveway. So this particular development does not have any parking, does not have any driveway. So the examples were incorrectly shown because there aren't any on the other side without any parking or any driveway. So those buildings provide dedicated driveways and on-site parking for residents and visitors. The proposed development provides no on-site parking despite containing 6 units and garden suite in this proposal. As a result, resident and visitor parking demand will be spill onto Horsham Avenue and surrounding streets. Neighborhood spillover parking from apartment building with limited or no parking often results in reduced street parking availability for existing residents, blocked driveways and illegally parked vehicles, increased traffic congestion, difficulties for visitors and service vehicles, additional challenges for snow removal operations during the winter months. The lack of designated visitor parking will also create ongoing inconvenience for the residents and their guests. I respectfully submit the committee should carefully consider this issue of parking for this particular property. The waste storage and management. City bylaw on waste 10.5.150. For any apartment building in a residential zone category, all waste and recycling material must be stored in a wholly enclosed building. A development containing 6 dwelling units and a garden suite will generate significant amount of garbage, recycling, and organic waste, approximately 21 bins. Appropriate enclosed storage facilities are necessary to ensure the waste is properly contained, maintained, and does not create visual, operational, or pest-related problems for the neighborhood properties. The proposal does not appear to demonstrate how waste generated by the resident unit will be adequately stored. For these reasons, I respectfully submit the request for the variance do not meet the test for a minor variance and are not consistent with the intent and purpose of the city's zoning bylaw. I ask the Committee of Adjustment to support the concerns of the local residents and the Ratepayers Association to refuse the application, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions? All right.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Terry Saw, and I'm the second speaker is my wife, so I live at 445 Horsham, which is directly next to the proposed building. I'm not going to talk about the legalities and the requests and the variances and all that stuff. I simply have one point to make, and that is, when you're in the situation directly, there's a certain personal impact that can't be measured. So I'm not asking the committee and to discuss the nature and the severity of the request on variances. All I'm asking for in conclusion, that as you weigh the options and you examine the proposals presented to you, I humbly ask that you take that same weighting of assessment of the human factor that's involved and the impact that it has on us directly and immediately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Joanna Metz Ionescu. I live at 365 Ellerslie Avenue. I'm a board member of West San Lac Willowdale Neighborhood Association and the West Willowdale resident since 1999. And I'm here to oppose this application for 447 Horsham Avenue. I want to begin by saying that I support the city's objectives for intensification, sixplexes, garden suites, and additional housing along major streets. My concern is not whether more housing should be permitted on this side. The city, through OPA 727, has already answered that question. The question before the committee is whether the specific variances requested by the applicant satisfy all four tests under Section 45 of the Planning Act. The applicant seeks approval for a development consisting of 2 residential buildings, 7 dwelling units, reduced building separations, and an oversized garden suite on a single RD zoned lot. The applicant may argue that additional housing is a planning benefit, and he did. I agree. However, the existence of a planning benefit does not automatically satisfy the 4 tests. The committee must still determine whether the proposal maintains the intent of the official plan, maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw, represents appropriate development of the land, and is minor. In my respectful submission, that burden has not been met. OPA 727 supports intensification along major streets, and the proposed 6-unit building already delivers this intensification. What has not been demonstrated is why a second oversized residential building is also needed on the lot, and in such case, why the resulting development should still be considered minor. The committee is not evaluating whether housing is desirable. The committee is evaluating whether the requested variances are justified. The applicant has presented this as individual variances. However, the Planning Act requires the committee to consider the cumulative outcome that create together. Viewed individually, some of the variances may appear modest. Viewed collectively, they facilitate 2 residential buildings, 7 dwelling units, reduced separation distances, and oversized ancillary building, and a development form that is substantially different from what would otherwise be permitted on the site. The official plan supports intensification, but it also requires compatibility and an appropriate relationship between intensified development and surrounding residential properties. The committee must determine whether extending development across the entire lot through a second oversized residential building maintains that intent. Similarly, the committee must determine whether the intent of the RD zone framework is maintained when the proposal requires multiple variances to accommodate a development form that brings a significant larger and more intensive development than zoning anticipated. Most importantly, the committee must determine whether the overall outcome remains minor. Respectfully, I don't believe the applicant has provided yet sufficient planning justification for the committee to make that finding. And finally, I respectfully ask the committee to carefully consider its role under Section 45 of the Planning Act. To approve this application, the committee must find that all four tests have been satisfied. That requires concluding that the cumulative outcome of 2 residential buildings, 7 dwelling units, reduced separation distances, and an oversized garden suite on a single RD zone lot remains minor and maintains the intent of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw. If this level of cumulative intensification is considered minor, it becomes increasingly difficult to identify what meaningful limit remain within the RD zoning frame and within the city's intended model of gentle neighborhood intensification. This is important not only for this application, but for maintaining a consistent and defensible application of the 4 tests under Section 45 of the Planning Act. Committee decisions may ultimately be reviewed through the Ontario Land Tribunal process, where the consistency of the planning rationale and application of official plan and zoning bylaw intent are carefully considered. And for those reasons, through you, Mr. Chair, I respectfully request that the committee refuse this application. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time and consideration for our neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any other speakers that have come in person before I ask staff if we have any speakers online? Okay, very good. Okay. Thank you, everybody. At this point, I'm now going to turn it back to our agent and applicant and provide him an opportunity to respond to the concerns that were raised by the previous speakers. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee panel, and thank you for the neighborhood to share their concern, although we reviewed them before that, carefully. It is tough job for us, and I totally understand, the neighborhood concern, and it is common through this intensification policy that city has. We have to try play a role that make everything, something in between, and that's what I try to share our vision when we propose this building. As I said, basically, even planning department encourage us to ask for more density. My client want to have a bigger one, but we fight for that. For example, regarding our adjacent neighbor concern for blocking their view, we fight for that with our client to convince him that we don't want to project from our neighbor. Although zoning bylaw allows us to go over there 1.5 meter, we could propose our building 1.5 meter closer to the property line rather than the neighbor. We try to convince them, okay, it is not good to have, encroachment in a front yard. Let's align our building with our neighbor, because I truly understand, the concern with the neighbor. Or even when we have a garden suite, if we want to combine garden suite with the building, we had to go for longer building with the bigger mass, both in height and length. That's why we try somehow provide a separation for building mass, provide more space and less impact, less massive impact on a neighborhood. Fortunately, on one side we are facing the Bathurst Street. On the other side, which is our neighbor, we did our best to reduce this negative impact or mitigate some of them. I noticed through the the shared concern and also through the opposition letter, there I categorize all the concern and review them carefully. Some of them regarding the density, apartment use, parking requirement, and all those kind of things, which I believe that all these concerns addressed through the adoption of OPA 727 and EHAN Major Street. And basically the most important concern we receive from our neighbor, which is the privacy. That's why we eliminate all primary window from our neighbor side. Still, we are proposing 1.8 meter side setback, which is a decent setback, for houseplex. If this project was a houseplex, the requirement side setback was 1.8 meter. And on top of that, if we go to the next page of my supportive document, we are totally okay to propose all window that we have here, which none of them are primary window. We are totally okay to propose tinted glass or treated glazing to avoid any any overlooking situation for all window on this side. And we do have one balcony at the back. I know that no neighbor raised this issue, but we are voluntarily want to do that because we have a balcony at the back on the second floor. We are totally okay to propose like a full height privacy screen on that side to avoid or eliminate any negative impact on this situation. Regarding the parking, because I listed, the situation that the issue and concern our neighbor proposed regarding the parking. Even if you look at through the history of our side, you see that we try hard and fight to get an access from the Bathurst Street, okay? But due to the policy compliance, transportation opposed to this access seriously. Even our situation, if we go to the site plan of the project, not the presentation document, at the Horsham Street, the situation that we have on the on the west side, we have a daylight triangle. We have a mature, healthy tree at the front of our building on Horsham Street. And also we were informed by transportation, there is like a upscale planning for the curb shape of Horsham Street. They try to do the adjustment that doesn't allow us to get any access from Horsham Street. Basically, transportation doesn't allow us to get any access from Bathurst Street. The upper level planning that they have for Horsham Street doesn't, and the mature healthy tree at the front doesn't allow us to get access from Horsham Street. We are still communicating with transportation, but since requirement of parking is not part of the variance and it is not required by zoning bylaw, I just want to tell you that we did our best to get what we can get to improve our project and also mitigate the negative impact on the neighborhood. And less important thing, I believe the first neighbor talk about the percentage of difference for the variances. We all know that determination of being major and minor is not like a mathematically calculation of those variances. As an architect, the negative impact of those variances is important for me. As I said, for example, for the side setback on a Bathurst Street, even planning department support us, and I want to reiterate that planning department reviewed our application, and they don't have any concern. The only concern that they have was for the height of Garden Street, which we totally will be amend our application to follow what they want. Regarding the west side setback, we are facing Bathurst Street. We have some technical variants that my paper, listed over there. One of them is regarding, basically the hallway that I have inside of the footprint, which instead of 1.2, it is 1.30. It doesn't change anything on a building envelope or any impact on anyone. I know that there may be some more questions. That's why I want to save committee time to address any question that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Yes, Mr. Marziari.
Just a quick question from the applicant. Has there been any consultation with the neighborhood association and neighbors or not?
We had communicated with our adjacent neighbor through the email. My client knocked the door, talked to them in person. We were in communication with the with the neighbor behind us, which they were okay with our application. On the south side of our property, we were in touch with the neighbor on the other side of Horsham. Yes, my client tried to communicate with the neighborhood, and when they have some concern specifically for our eastern neighbor, I had in touch with them. I tried to communicate with them through the phone call or meet, and the email to make sure that we know their concern. But some of those concern is out of our hand because of this OPA 727, which provides some framework to do that. And we try to fight to propose less than what we are supposed to do.
Apparently it wasn't that successful because I wish you could come to the chamber and see how many people shows up. We have about like 25, 30 people here.
I know the
so
situation.
for an application with this sensitivity, I think it's best if we come to the chamber and present and see the amount of objection we are getting here. So, but thanks for that.
Other questions? maybe I have a question about a potential impact of the garden suite. Particularly I'm just gonna scroll down. I think it's the south elevation. It looks like there's a pretty large window on the second story. Where is that facing into? Is it rear yard of an adjacent property?
The Battersea Street.
No, not that elevation. Let me just be a little more clear. So I'm looking at the garden suite side elevation. It's the east elevation.
Can we go to the floor plan that I can show you the second floor plan, please? Yes, here. That large window that you see from the dining room, it is looking to the Battersea Street.
I see. So that would be the west elevation then.
Exactly.
Okay. And then on the east elevation, I
We
still
have just
I see the window there, but where's
it is just one window for the bedroom. Again, we are totally okay to use like because the setback is not variance for the garden suite. We are okay to have like a treated glass, frosted glass, tinted glass to avoid any overlooking situation. This
Yeah, sir, that's a little misleading to say that the setback is not. Yeah, I know you meet the setback requirement, but you're here for a variance for a second story, and I have a window on the second story facing the rear yard. So I think that's fair game to ask. You know, usually on the rear of a building or a side of a building, certainly with primary windows, there's a little bit of spatial separation. Here is, you know, just about meeting if it's 4 feet, you're just meeting a building code requirement. And I do, you know, I do take it as a secondary window, but you know, in terms of the way in which it's sort of, it's a secondary window in that it goes to a bedroom, but it's still a pretty large window, right? It's more akin to what you would expect in a condominium, an apartment building, maybe less so in a house. I just wanted some clarification. Do we have potential sightline issues from that bedroom window into the rear yard of the adjacent neighbor? Or do we have
to you,
some?
Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, because you know we receive basically second story of the garden suite is not a variance technically. You know, since we received the late recommendation from the planning department to reduce this height from 6 meter to 5 meter, it's not talking about the number of story. For you know, there is no zoning provision for that. But if that concerns you, because we have to provide glazing for the garden suite, we can, you know, we can put a condition that not glazing on the side or tinted or glazing, whatever, frosted glass on the side wall of neighbor. We are okay. As I said, you know, we are okay for all other. For this specific one, we can put a condition on a potential approval that no window on a garden suite to the neighboring side. We are okay with that.
Okay, so there's no. I want to make sure I understand this correctly. So you're submitting that there's no variance for the second story of a garden suite, but it is. Am I correct to understand that you are asking for a variance on the height of the garden suite?
We
So
don't know
if you didn't have. Sorry, let me just finish. If you didn't have the height, right, you'd be restricted to 4 meters.
Yes.
How do you get a second story in a 4 meter tall garden suite? Is not the purpose and intent of that bylaw to, you know, presume that you would have a limited to 1 story if you have a 4 meter?
That's why the situation is a bit complicated, Mr. Chair, because we received this late recommendation from a staff report so late. We couldn't amend our drawing. I don't know that what I can do with 5 meter, because 5 meter even limit myself to eliminate the second story. 5 meter is not enough to propose the second story. Automatically, it's going to be eliminated. And on the other side, For the garden suite, usually we are allowed if the separation between building is 7.5 meters, 6 meter height is allowed. In our case, we have 6 meter. And the reason for that 6 meter is because we push the building 1.5 meter back to align with the neighbor. But automatically, when we amend our application for 5 meter height, it is, we are talking about 20, basically 15 feet height, automatically force us to eliminate the second floor. But since it was late submission, the drawing in front of you is, the old one.
Okay, but so I'm looking at the revised plans for May 20th. Those are the drawings we're going by. So are you saying that this building will still undergo some material alteration? Like, are you putting forth that perhaps the second story of the garden suite will be eliminated?
Exactly. Through the late suggestion of planning department with 5 meter height, we have to eliminate the second
It's
floor.
going to be one story because it's 5 meters. It cannot fit like two levels.
Right.
So, but the drawings are not shown.
Let's have a discussion, but I want to have it, like, make sure your mic's on. I want everyone to hear. So we're, okay, so with the reduction, I mean, it's tough to evaluate because what I'm hearing from the
Can I say
agents-
something to the applicant? I think this is what I want to start the discussion with. I think the applicant is architect, and he knows that best. This application, I think, with the amount of changes,
yes,
and sensitivity, I think it's just not fair to come to this committee and drop like 8 variances, and even like the drawing is not updated, and drop another 2 variances, and just say that the one story will be gone.
Yeah, I had the same
I mean, overall, honestly, I think this is a very good site for intensification.
Yes.
And I like the application, but I think it's just not fair to the public to change to this extent and without like proper drawings and proper documentation and consultation with the neighborhood. So I am not prepared to vote on this application. I think the best course is just the applicant seek deferral and come back with like a proper notice and drawings.
Okay, I will say this, and I've been sharing for a number of years now. Typically, when we hear an application, the whole way through, we make a decision on it. Usually, if we're leaning towards a deferral, that's dealt with at the beginning of the application. Now, I had concerns going into this, even before I arrived today, in reviewing the material with the number of changes. And I said this in my opening remarks. The application is substantially revised. We may not be able to entertain those revisions, and we may have to send the application back so that it can be recirculated. Now, I was under the impression with all of these changes that we had an updated set of plans revised on May 20th. I was also comforted by the fact that in the opposition material, it appeared to me that those that were in opposition were aware of the changes and that they were following with what was being done. But now I'm hearing that we have a 2-story garden suite, which I have some concern with, but I'm getting a little bit confused, frankly, because I'm hearing that the drawings are going to have to be amended to knock an entire story off of a 2-story building. Now that's a substantial change. So it's hard as an adjudicator to really understand what we're approving at this point. Certainly, we don't have the ability to tie things to drawings because the drawings aren't up to date.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can I have a suggestion? Because, to be honest, time is the essence for my client.
No. Sorry, you may continue.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, I have a authorization from my client because time is essence for my client. If the garden suite situation I totally understand Mr. Marziori concern and I totally agree with him. I'm totally okay to drop and eliminate all variances required for garden suite. And for the garden suite, we can go as of right. We can stick just to the variances for the main building.
I'm gonna look to my members, but I mean I would be amenable to that. I mean I have an issue with the garden suite variances because I don't think we have a complete application before us. If I'm hearing that the drawings have to change and that a story has to be.
Yes, I totally understand
Yeah.
that. That's why we are asking for three variants, variants number 13, 14, and 15 for garden suite. And we are okay to eliminate those variances from our application.
Sir, so I obviously can't make that decision for you. You have to let me know if you'd like to remove those variances
Definitely.
on the floor. Okay.
Yes.
So staff, the applicant has indicated that he would like to remove variances related to the garden suite. That's variances number 10 all the way through 17. I understand that some of them have already been eliminated. So, but with what's remaining, 13, 14, 15, they're out. So all those variances for the garden suite are now out. So now we're dealing with the variances for the request of the apartment building itself. Okay?
So we're dealing with 6 variances.
All right.
Are we in committee? Or?
Sure, I think we're ready to go into committee now. Okay.
I can start the discussion.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Let's go into committee.
Yeah, so I think it's a big change, but I totally get the application. I think it's a very good site for this type of intensification, and I like the application. I hear the neighbors' concerns and I sympathize with them, but this is on major street and this is the city policy is happening, and I think the variances, the requested variances, to me they're minor and aligned with the overall city policy. So to me, it's a supportable application, especially with the garden suite variances removed. It's totally supportable for me.
Yeah. Well, I'll just add to that, the proximity to Bathurst, I think, is really key. It's a really wide right of way. And well, I understand, I certainly understand. There's always impact when you have an adjacency of an apartment building next to an R zone, a residential, especially a single family. But, for those listening in too, to a certain degree, you go around the city and on our major streets, we do have more intensification. That intensification, to a certain degree, acts as a buffer to the residential zone, helps to separate it, right? You don't have perhaps just a single family house with a driveway right next to a really wide right of way, there's a sort of a mix in this part of Bathurst, a mix of, you got some single family homes and apartment buildings. So the expectation, I think, over time, we need to see some form of intensification beyond just a single family home. The question, though, is now, if we're okay with the adjacency on the major road, now we have to evaluate the adjacency to the immediate neighbor. And that's sort of where I'm at now in my evaluation. So we have a variance for setback on the neighboring side. That's certainly a consideration. Any more comments from members? Just to confirm, we've lost Ms. Sankar Peralta, so we're down to 4 members
Just
now.
to clarify, the applicant is seeking 2 feet setback reduction on the neighbor's side.
On the neighbor side, 2 feet reduction.
Well, I mean, to me, it's supportable, honestly, because it's a transition lot. So, it'll happen eventually. It can be a condo. It's on Bathurst. Even if you look across the street, you see, rental buildings. So, it's unfortunate for the immediate neighbor inside. If it was one lot inside the neighborhood, I would refuse that. But this is the place that is happening, and I don't have an issue.
All right. Okay. To my other 2 colleagues on the right, do we have any more comment? Are we perhaps ready to see if we have a motion and get somewhere with this? Okay. All right, Mr. Marzari, not to put you on the spot, but maybe.
I can try a motion and see how far it goes.
Okay.
So I forward a motion to approve this application as amended. So all variances related to garden suite to be eliminated. And for the apartment building, variance number 1 amended to 2.4, variance 4 eliminated, variance 8.
Excuse me, we're in committee.
Variance 8 also eliminated. And what else? And variance 9 is also eliminated. So we're dealing with variance 1 as amended, 2, 3 approved, 5 and 6 approved, 7 approved. That's it.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for the motion? That's seconded by Ms. Klein. All in favor of Mr. Marziari's motion? Okay, that carries. The motion is approved as modified. All right. Thank you, everyone. That certainly was a tough one. Okay. We've got one. All right. Do we need to take a 5-minute adjournment? All right. Excuse me. There's some decorum in the chamber. No, this is not an opportunity for you to speak. Thank you. All right. We're on the last item, number 19. All right. Item number 19, 66 Burnaby Boulevard. All right. I'm just going to take a moment to allow some people to exit the chambers so that we can continue with our work. Yes. So number 18 was deferred. Number 19, last item of the day, 66 Burnaby Boulevard. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing detached dwelling by constructing a third-story addition and converting it into an apartment building with 5 dwelling units. Variances for west side yard setback for a porch at the rear, west side yard setback for a porch at the front, east side yard setback for a balcony at the rear, east side yard setback for a balcony at the front. Soft landscaping area, reduction and omission of east and west strips of landscaping, omission of visitor parking spaces, omission of long-term bicycle parking spaces, omission of shower and change facility, omission of long and short-term bicycle parking spaces, building depth, east side yard setback, and west side yard setback. All right, on file, we've got material from our applicant, 3 form letters in support, memo from transportation, and 1 letter of objection from 65 Willowbank Boulevard. We have our agent with us?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it seems that we have the same technical issue with this one as well. Give us a few minutes.
All right. I think we can. All right, for those listening in, we just have some technical difficulty connecting to our agent, 66 Burnaby Boulevard. Just to note, Mr. Marziari stepped out. We're now down to 3 members. Still have quorum though.
through you, Mr. Chair, we still cannot use the regular way to connect, so I have to put him on the speakerphone. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Tay Brook. I'm the planner for the owners of the property at 66 Burnaby Boulevard, and I'm at 18 Young Street.
All right, thank you. Staff, we have the neighbor online. Okay, sir, we've got 5 minutes up. Brief presentation. Please just be mindful of the time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So before you today are variances related to a third-story addition to an existing two-story dwelling, resulting in 5 dwelling units. There are variances, as you noted earlier, with regards to side yard setbacks for the porch and deck at the front and rear, in addition to building depth, and also bicycle and long and short-term parking spaces, in addition to side yard setbacks for the dwelling. If you just go back to the site plan that was up before, once again, what this proposal is an addition to the existing building envelope of a third story. You'll note that there's no height variance required for the proposal, resulting in 5 dwelling units. The reason why the 5 units is being proposed within the actual building is because there's an existing garage that shares a mutual wall at the rear. And that would impact the neighbors' parking situation and construction as well. There is a capacity for 5 units via fourplex on the main building and a garden suite at the rear. However, we believe that the proposal, as provided, provides for modest-sized units, smallest being 603 square feet, and the largest being 1,296 square feet, and a combination of 2 one-bedrooms, 1 two-bedrooms, and 2 three-bedroom units. If you could go to the area context map, which is slide number 6, you'll note that there's properties highlighted in green and represents multi-tenant dwellings within the immediate block. In addition to that, just to the north of us, north of the subject site, is 1066 Avenue Road, which is an apartment building that's located immediately adjacent to the property. You also indicate the blue dots indicate letters of support, both of which we have received from adjacent neighbors on both sides at 64 and 68, in addition to 1 letter across the street at 67, 69. You'll also note in this area context map, majority of the houses in this area have reduced side yard setback and doesn't comply with the zoning bylaw. And once again, we are maintaining the existing building envelope and existing side yard setbacks, when we're not increasing the building mass aside from going up in terms of the third story addition. There is a building depth variance, and that somewhat is technical in the sense that the rear porch at the back is excavated underneath, resulting in the 17.9 number. And if you look at the site plan, the principal building itself, or the existing dwelling, it has a building length of 16.15 meters, which is under the 17-meter mark. Further, in addition to that, there's landscaping variances in the front and side yards. Once again, the side yards is existing, where nothing's being changed there. And on the east side yard, you'll note that there is a mutual driveway that exists between 66 and 64, which is being maintained. The front yard setback, front yard landscaping is a small incremental change from what's existing there right now, what's proposed at 47%, whereas 50% is required. And I would submit to the committee that this is an indiscernible difference and wouldn't be discernible from a streetscape. And you'll note in the pictures, I have taken pictures of other properties along the block where reduced front yard landscaping exists. And finally, The variances related to visitor spaces, long-term bicycle spaces, and shower facilities. You'll note that there was comments provided by May 20th from Transportation Department, which indicate they realize the context and the development constraints of this proposal, and they have no issues with any of the variances related to that. And it's indicated the variance number 7, 8, 9, and 10 are appropriate, and they have no objections. They do advise of conditions, which we have no issues with. There is no comments from planning staff and no urban forestry conditions. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Questions? Okay. We have our neighbor online. Let's hear from them.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Name and address,
Fantastic.
please.
Yep, Peter Swift of 65 Willowbank. I want to start by thanking you for the opportunity to speak. As per my letter, my main concerns relate to the privacy and noise impact that the changes to the rear of 66 Burnaby will have on my property. This starts with the increase of the number of windows to the rear of the dwelling. And you'll see that from the pictures that I send you. You'll see that from the plans as well. I think the development of 5 apartments, which consists of approximately 10 bedrooms on such a small site, which I understand is currently a 3-bed property, will impact the privacy and enjoyment of my garden and the rooms in the back of my house due to the windows having a direct line of sight to my property. The number and the size of the properties increases the viewing angles over my garden and the rear of my house. As I'll speak to later, I'm also concerned that this change will set a precedent for future changes to 68 and 70 Burnaby Boulevard. And I know that 70 Burnaby is also owned by the same owner of 66 Burnaby Boulevard, who's basically the applicant here. Regarding the development of an overhanging balcony on the first floor at the rear of the building, this excessive balcony is likely to be used as an outdoor social space for those living in the building and qualifies as a new outdoor amenity area that's directly overlooking my property and represents a significant source of noise and threat to the privacy of my property. This threat is further compounded by the fact that the balcony is made of glass, which will be easily enable direct lines of sight into my property. This distinguishes from the property next door at 68 Burnaby, where the second floor balcony has non-transparent screen on the back of the property. And this definitely provides non-transparent wall on the back of the property. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yeah, we're listening.
Fantastic, sorry. It's definitely different from the 68, which has a solid wall, which is completely non-transparent. And I don't, again, want to set this precedent. As I say, the use of the glass on the balcony on the first floor and on the Juliet balcony on the second floor, which would be the second or the third floors, I always get confused in Canada on which floor is which, are not transparent. This is a real concern for me. I highlighted the increase in the use of the cars and the car parking because on my street it's already under heavy pressure due to the Amica nursing home. As I say, the key point and the key concern that I've got as well is it's not only the privacy, the overlooking, the noise impact to my property, it's also that this sets a precedent and it gives the opportunity for 68 to convert its balcony. It also, encourages 70 and they will also overlook my property, which I'm concerned about. And that's really kind of part of it. I really want to stress that creation of a new precedent by the use of a non-opaque balcony. I spoke to the applicant after this was submitted when I contacted him to understand what was being applied for. And I know the applicant as he was the realtor when I moved into the property, and he also lives in the neighborhood. And during the call, I asked him about the materials for the balcony, and I explained the materials next door, and he said he wasn't clear on what the materials were. At which point I didn't discuss it any further with him. I'm quite happy to pursue the conversation further with him or with his representative to discuss a reduction in the number and the size of the windows, a reduction in the size of the balcony, and a change to the materials at the back of the property to increase the privacy for myself and for my neighbours. So it's with all this in mind, I believe that the variances do not meet the minor impact requirement. And I'm no lawyer, so I don't know if I've actually covered everything. Also, in my pictures, I note that I showed a picture from the ground level across to the property, and you can see leaves. It's interesting, if you look at the tree submission as part of the application, you'll see what it looks like without, taken from the ground level on the other side. And there is basically a very strong clear line of sight right the way through to the back of my property. And I am conscious that my property is overlooked by the Amaka nursing home. And I'd like to quote the applicant who addressed this when I asked him about it when I purchased the property. And he said, "You do not need to worry about being overlooked by the residents of Amaka because they're unable to stand up and do not spend a lot of time looking out the window." So I just want to make sure that's not taken into account from an overlook perspective. They were my points. And again, I'm happy to take any questions if you want me to.
All right, thank you. Questions? Okay, let's turn it back to our agent, provide him an opportunity to respond.
Yes, sir. With regards to the rear windows, if I can take you to slide number 8 on my presentation slides. What you see from this picture number 4 is the view from the rear wall of the subject site towards the rear lot line of the property. And what you have is 1066 Avenue Road. It's a blank wall that extends approximately 4 stories up into the air and adjacent to the rear garage. I would submit to you, and in addition to that, the neighbor at 65 Willowdale is elevated in terms of their views, and the views actually look down towards the subject site. In any event, there are no variances related to rear yard setback. We have enough sufficient distance from the rear lot line. Any overviews that result from the permitted balconies in terms of size and location is something that is expected and acceptable given the tight nature of the subject site and the surrounding area. And I would submit to you that the views and privacies that have been are more infringed upon the subject site due to the apartment building than the subject site would do the adjacent neighboring dwellings. Once again, car parking, once again, is related to the fact that this is being designated as an apartment building. But I think for all intents and purposes, this is a single detached unit that contains 5 units that has been deployed in an appropriate way. And transportation has recognized the scale of this development or proposal and have indicated that they have no concerns with the proposal. Those are my submissions. Once again, if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Members, questions? All right, let's take this into committee.
I'm just starting with some comments. I think I understand, like, you know, the existing detached dwelling. I get that. At the same time, you know, the variances that before us, I feel like within that amount that the applicant has wants to do too many. Like, if you're putting the variances each like separately, looking at it fine, but all together, somehow like some variances, I think it's pushing when you're putting all the application together. So I want to hear like what others think about this.
There was some discussion about this earlier in the day. I think, you know, there's been recent changes to the zoning bylaw to permit sixplexes. It only applies to certain parts of the city. So in certain parts of the city where that sixplex is not an as of right, it would then fall under the classification of an apartment building. Under the zoning bylaw, under apartment building, there's a whole slew of variances or requirements just by falling into that classification. So it also, to a certain extent, it becomes a question of, you know, we understand it as a right, you know, up to 3 or 4 units, right? But now, does the additional 2 units impact the application enough such that the variances that would be required of an apartment building, landscape strip and all that, do they need to? Should they apply? Are they impactful, right?
Mhm.
I guess the other question I have is, whether there's 4 units or 6 units within the building envelope, again, how does that impact, right? There's a bit of intensification, perhaps within the number of people in the building, but then you have smaller units. You might have less family size units. I heard one of the square footages was 600 and something, which to me indicates that's about a 1 bedroom. So you're probably gonna have 1 to 2 occupants in that unit versus maybe 3 or 4. But it is, I mean, it's at first glance, it's a bit daunting, 13 variances on the file, but
It does push what is what you normally see in this neighborhood. Not to say that the variances aren't supportable or, something that I would say yes to, but it does give some concern with.
Yeah, I guess
with
the question,
with the desirability.
the question I have is if it was reduced in, from 6 to 4, and it's no longer classified as an apartment building, how does that change this? I mean, how many variances are we down to? And then the question is the difference of adding an additional 2 units on the apartment building, what is the impact of that
Right.
going to a 6-plex in an area that would classify it as an apartment building, have more stringent requirements? I mean, I also note that the applicant submitted that this section in the immediate context, there's a number of multiplex developments. And I guess my concerns are also assuaged by the fact that while there is concern from the neighbor at the rear, that it's limited to one opposition. I don't think, with respect to the neighbor at the rear, I think the impact is acceptable. I think there's a good separation. I understand on-look and privacy, but we're not dealing with a lot that's has a side adjacency. It's got a rear adjacency, and it's not only a rear adjacency, but it's rear and a little bit over. So there's a good spatial separation, and also somewhat mitigated by the fact that there's a larger apartment building already there on site in the rear yard, and it is a blank wall, so. But those are my thoughts. Do you hear motion, see where it goes?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 of us, so we'll. Oh, you'd like me to make a motion?
I think it's okay. to do, yeah. We're-
Okay, sure, I'll make a motion. I mean, I think, for the reasons stated, I'm not gonna repeat them, but, for the reasons stated, adjacencies, impact, privacy, response from the public, and also the fact that the city is moving in a direction of intensification, providing a variety of housing types within, our yellow belt, our residential zone. I think this is a supportable application. I'd be willing to put a motion forward for approval, subject to conditions noted in there's a transportation review.
They had no objections.
No objections,
No.
but they do have conditions. So we've got the conditions noted in the transportation review. And that's it. I don't see anything, community planning didn't weigh in on this. So that's my motion. See where it goes. Okay, second by Ms. Klein, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. That application is approved with condition. Okay, thank you, everybody. The time is now 5:24. Thank you to members who stayed a little bit later. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll put forward a motion to adjourn this. meeting.
Seconded by Mr. Vazzelli, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff. And have a good night.